relations and stuff like that. I don't know if you can comment on that. You might not even know.
Well, so a lot of people came to me, and they were DNC people who tried to get me directly and indirectly to give intel on Donald. And they started putting together dossiers on me, and they specifically handed it to Christopher Steele.
Wait, so DNC people came to you?
Yep.
Who was that?
There's a potential lawsuit going on right now, so I don't want to say until such time as that. If I file a lawsuit, then you guys will know who it is. But it's a company with six of nine people on the board are former Clinton administration officials.
Got it. And the other thing I just wanted to, on my last comment, because I don't really have anything, because it's all sort of different from what I usually do, so I'm just kind of listening. But there's this guy whose name is Carlito, and he's kind of insinuated that you might be Source E for Chris Steele. Can you add him to the Stone Cold Bitch Club, if that's possible?
He is most definitely out of his fucking mind.
And in the Stone Cold Bitch Club, right?
Absolutely. I was a victim of Chris Steele.
Exactly.
Not a source for him.
Just like everybody else. Awesome. Thanks, man. This is fascinating.
But you could be an unwitting source, Felix.
How could I be an unwitting source?
Not for that shit that Source E said.
How could I possibly be an unwitting source?
I'm just kidding. I'm really just kidding.
By the way, I'm part of the lawsuit that I just answered. Why I can't really get too much into it is, if I file it, Chris Steele is going to be a defendant. I'm suing him.
Nice.
Fuck him.
So get it filed then.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of steps that need to happen, and this situation in Kazakhstan last week really put not a hamper on things. Literally, before I joined this chat just now, I was on the phone with my attorney, and I literally said to him, I said, when we first started, you were like double checking everything I said, and you weren't sure that I knew what was going on, and you had to check with my old lawyers, and you wanted corroboration with emails, and eventually you came to the conclusion, you being my attorney, you came to the conclusion that I knew what I was talking about, and when I said certain things are going to happen, they pretty much either happened the way I said or close to, and my assessment of the people in the situation, what was going on. I said, with all of that said, are you in agreement that you came to that conclusion? He said, yeah, absolutely, Felix. At a certain point, I just started to trust completely what you said, the things that you knew about, and I started to trust your gut. I said, well, with all of that said, right now, I haven't the foggiest idea of what's going to happen there right now, even though I know who, what, where, how. Really, it's a complete toss-up, which also is causing us to tomorrow. I'm having almost a half a day brainstorming session about how all of this is going to affect what's going on, because just players that were there just got taken off the map. Not only taken off the map, thrown in jail for treason by Kazakhstan.
Felix, if I may, if I could go one layer deeper into the onion, this entity that you mentioned related to Clinton, is this like a communications firm, or is it an investigative company? Can you say that much?
It's an investigative company.
Okay, thank you.
It's sort of a business intelligence company, like a Kroll style company.
Can I ask if maybe you're referencing Black Cube?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Or something similar to that?
Yeah, something similar to that, yeah.
I have a secondary question, though. I feel like your statement before was about, you made a casual joke. Oh, greed is my motivator, but...
I didn't say greed is my motivator. I said greed is my most powerful weapon.
Sorry. But that...
Money doesn't motivate me.
Should we be concerned that, like, your easy access... and I'm not saying it was easy. It was a lot of hard work. But that the idea that, like, a regular person, a real estate agent doing very well can get access to Putin with enough ambition and enough, connections. Should we be, the idea that it is easy to maybe get a line in with any person, should we be afraid of that in a way? I'm not saying that the opposite is true, but
Well,
it's
first I'd
Well,
like
if
to take.
Trump's name was on it, then yeah.
First, I'd like to. First, I'd like to take. First, I'd like to
like
take umbrage with the
I'm just
fact
very
that.
impressed. I'm very always impressed with your rise in business. Like, huge accomplishment.
Yeah, but you also said that your average person. I'm the furthest thing from your average person. I'm more fucked up than anyone you've ever met in your life, and that includes most people in the insane asylum. But with that said, um, it's not an issue of being afraid or not afraid. With enough motivation, there's 3 Ds: dedication, desire, and devotion. You could do anything. Getting to Putin is not that big of a deal.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your story is fascinating, and I'm curious. So I think it was in the late '90s when a judge had basically in one of your court cases where a judge had kind of outed you as an informant for the FBI.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, like after that, because you also managed to actually turn over Bin Laden's number to authorities to give us I think, give us Bin Laden's satellite phone number. So I'm curious, after you had been outed as an
Oh,
informant,
a lot
how
more than
how
a lot
how are
more
you?
than just that.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So how are you still able to work with underground, your underground connections in Russia, Chechens, and what have you to get that kind of information after you'd been outed as an informant?
let me give you the let me reiterate one thing. Greed is my go-to weapon. So, like the Bin Laden story. Um, in early '98, I went into Afghanistan with a kill squad to get Osama bin Laden. We knew which camp he was in, and I went from Tajikistan by truck into Mazar-e-Sharif. We hooked up with a group of Northern Alliance fighters, and we were gonna night march onto Tora Bora, and we were gonna go into his camp and basically kill him. And the operation got all fucked up. Then subsequently, I delivered 10 of his satellite phone numbers, which the U.S. government and other intelligence agencies worldwide, including England, because England's an important part here, were listening to him for about 6 months. In fact, I was told by British intelligence that by listening to him, they stopped a major chemical attack on the London subway, the London Tube, which could have taken out thousands of people. But after 9/11, I actually got Mullah Omar was the head of the Taliban, and he was protecting bin Laden. In fact, they were together in the cave after 9/11. I got his personal secretary to turn, and he started providing me intel, which I obviously gave to the government. And uh, they were coming to they started coming to my house at 3 o'clock in the morning because I was getting this intel. I was speaking to them at night, like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then the feds would come to my house and download all the intel that I would give them. And I gave them the names of Al Qaeda operatives, their hidden passport names, like new names that they had, the passports from which countries, ammunitions caches, which intel agencies were meeting with Al Qaeda, movements of bin Laden. Then subsequently, when we started bombing them, confirmation of kills on the ground. When special forces went in, they were informed of where various weapons caches and various troop movements were. After we invaded, I helped stop an assassination attempt on Colin Powell because I gave them the coordinates of a house where they were sitting with Stinger missiles, and it was Colin Powell's approach to the airport, and they were going to take down his plane, which hundreds of people on the plane, including Colin Powell, and that also led to me helping stop an assassination attempt on George Bush and or Dick Cheney through the Senate office building barbershop. So okay, all of that. Now let me just underscore how I got it. Okay, and when I say greed is my go-to weapon, well, the personal secretary to Mullah Omar, his wife was married. His wife's sister was the mother of somebody that I knew who had worked in Intel, and I met in Russia through a GRU guy, et cetera, et cetera. And I basically called him and told him that I cut a deal for him if he could get me Intel to open a bank and for him to become basically Alan Greenspan of Afghanistan. And I ran down, I went to Network Solutions and I got, if I remember correctly, it was Bank of Kabul and bankofafghanistan.com. I got a corporation from the company corp called Bank of Kabul. And then I ran down to Bloomberg Legal Supplies down on Park Row and bought a stamp and a wax and ribbons, because over in that part of the world, they use ribbons and stamps and wax seals and all that shit. And I ordered the corporation, and our regular corporate seals are simple. And I created all of that, bought a satellite phone, sent it to him, told him that, he was going to open Bank of Kabul. And after he started feeding me information, I called the feds and said, okay, I've got Intel, let's go. And that's how I started getting all of that Intel. So, yeah, it was greed. I told him he was going to be, Alan Greenspan. And I just figured out who to go to and how to get Intel. I got lucky, but the amount of Intel that was shared, there was subsequently many, many people, including from the CIA and places like that, that basically said that I potentially could have saved, thousands, if not tens of thousands of U.S. servicemen's lives, and potentially maybe even millions of regular citizens' lives by providing all this various intel and helping shut down the Al-Qaeda networks.
It's a very interesting story for sure.
By the way, it was all confirmed. I mean, if you really dig deep, all of this is completely confirmed by numerous people. This is not just me blowing my own horn.
Were there a lot of Chechens that you worked with over there?
I'm sorry.
I was just curious if I'm sorry if I'm over my.
No, I didn't. No. I didn't work with any Chechens.
Okay.
I mean, I know them, and I know them, and I know some people that are really close to Ramzan Kadyrov, but I've never worked with any Chechens regarding the Al Qaeda stuff. Although there were Chechen fighters, those guys are just sort of born fighters. The fact that they're on the opposite side of who we'd like them to be on is different, but they're a warrior class for sure.
Gotcha.
Complete warrior class.
Did it surprise you that Trump and Pompeo made a deal with the Taliban?
No, it was a pragmatic deal. It was either that or just, support or turn Afghanistan into Puerto Rico, because there was just no other way. Our ideas of democracy don't work in many places of the world. Okay, it's not Western Europe. You're never going to get Afghanistan to become Canada. It just does not work. And no matter how much they tried, the Taliban is an ingrained part of Afghanistan. And I thought it was a smart idea to cut a deal with them, because I don't believe in staying. I believe in getting in, kicking ass, and leaving.
I believe in getting out too, but even though they went around the backs of our allies over there to do it, I mean,
well, who were our allies?
Hey, Felix. Hey, Felix. Sorry, man.
Sure.
Based on that shit and what we see ahead of us, do you think there'll be justice for the past, and do you think that there's a way forward here in the future with how Intel is dealt with and how we're gonna basically overcome this?
When you say this, what do you mean this?
Well, we have obviously a bit of a shadow government in place right now. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Joe Biden is not really running like anything. So it's a group of people that are doing things, a group of people that I'm sure you're well aware of who they are. And
are we talking about deep conspiracy theories here? Is that what we're getting into?
I wouldn't call that a conspiracy theory.
Clearing, let him talk 1 second. And then let's go back to what you were talking about, Clearing. 1 second.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just think that based on the situation where we're finding ourselves right now, right? Mm-hmm. We see who's in power. We know in 2022 there's going to be a big shift. If McCarthy becomes the majority leader, though, that's a
Mhm.
bad idea, in my opinion. But if we shift over here in the next, 11 months, 10 months, do you see a way forward where we can see justice for the shit you're talking about and a way forward to get these fuckers out of there?
Well, so, I'm clearly not a Biden supporter. Okay. In fact, um, I think it was the wrong thing to do to elect him. I think obviously the things that are happening are bad for the country. I believe that a, like I like Rand Paul, but I'm crazy, so don't pay attention to me. Um, I I think that there's a lot of problems going on in this country that far surpass whether Joe Biden knows what he's doing or not. I don't think that the magic bullet is the Republicans taking over in 2022. I think we've got some systemic issues. Um, and I see the biggest problem is not, these set of douchebags or another set of douchebags, because they're all douchebags, that's for sure. If you think that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are any worse than on the other side, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, well, you're confused. Because by the very definition, to be a very successful politician, you have to be like a douchebag through and through. And Nancy Pelosi would be supporting, Donald Trump with every bone in her body if she thought that would get her reelected, and vice versa for the other side. So, I see our problems as the political class and the ruling class in totem. I see the problem as Washington, not Democrats in Washington or Republicans in Washington. Washington. We've gone so far away from the Constitution, from our founding fathers and what made this country great, that we're now sitting here and shitting on CNN and Fox News. I mean, seriously, the both of them should get shut down.
Yeah, not to be a dick, dude, but yeah, we all know that. So what's the solution? I mean, we all know that everyone in DC is a douche. So then what?
What's the solution? The solution really happens to be, um, um, in my opinion, citizen politicians, people really getting um, right now. Right now, I believe the enemy of the people is the press, as it's currently configured. I don't believe that the press is the enemy of the people, but I believe that the way the press is currently being ran is they're becoming the enemy of the people. They're brainwashing people. The shit that I hear coming out of MSNBC is as bad as the shit that I hear coming out of Fox
It's
News.
appalling.
It's appalling. It's appalling what they're doing. And, most people are sheep and they just listen to it and then they repeat that shit and they vote accordingly. And the greatest threat right now is the tech companies. They get, I mean, who fucking died and made them Grace Kelly to decide which First Amendment issue is allowed and not allowed? Yeah, I think that we should just, take Jack Dorsey, put him against a wall, and, a couple of, quick firing squad would solve a lot of problems in this country.
Okay, that's a little much, but yeah, I got you.
Really? I don't think it's much at all. I think actually they have been so detrimental to our democracy that a good shooting would be less than I would do if I was in power, because I draw and quarter them.
Well, we don't really do that here, so.
Well, maybe we should try it once or twice. We've tried a couple of things in our democracy. We should try a few things like that. Anyway,
I strongly disagree with that. Even with the people I
Thanks for
most,
engaging, though, Felix.
Obviously, I'm going overboard, but I'm just trying to emphasize the point that I think our biggest problem is disinformation. That's where I think it's coming from. And believe me, both sides engage in it. And there is a shadow government on both sides that control. There's an old joke. I forgot which comedian said it, but when a president takes office on the first day, a couple of people walk in, they open up a screen, like a projector screen, and they say, we want to show you a movie. And they show him the Kennedy assassination from a different angle, not the Zapruder tape, and say, any more questions?
Well, when Trump took office, he actually turned to some of these same shadowy entities to staff his administration. He basically went to the CMP and let them pick his cabinets or his White House staff and things like that. So it was surprising to me that people thought Trump was so much different when he was really just seeking power. Now I'm all about cable media, cable news is terrible. I'm not going to attack the press in general at all because we need a free press in this country badly. We need to be stronger because we don't need to rely on things like Facebook and Twitter any more than we need to rely on Fox or MSNBC or CNN. But
I completely agree with you. I completely, wholeheartedly agree with you. The most important thing for our democracy is a free press, and it's currently being trampled on. I couldn't agree with you more.
I also agree with citizen politicians. We need a lot more regular people to run for office. What I don't agree with is people running for office who want to tear down the institutions that we've built and undo everything we've built since the Great Depression. And there's a lot of that going on in the Republican Party today under the guise of libertarianism. So
can I ask you a question now that we've engaged? Can I ask you a question? You don't think that the Democratic Party is just as responsible in trying to tear down institutions that have been built since way before even the Great Depression? Do you really see the Republicans guilty and the Democrats with no guilt on their hands on this?
I look at corrupt individuals, and I see a lot of corrupt individuals, and I see some in the Dem Party, but I see a lot more in the Republican Party, and it feels to me like corruption has taken over the Republican Party, whereas it hasn't taken over the Dem Party yet.
I disagree with you.
Do you
completely.
have eyeballs or like earballs or anything?
No,
in
hold
your
on,
head?
hold on. I have a. Let's not. No, we don't have to make this personal and insulting. I have a question for you.
Sure.
If that is the case, why the hell is Nancy Pelosi against stopping Congress and Senate from insider stock trading? If the Democratic Party is so, hands clean and the Republicans are so corrupt, that's bullshit. I mean,
I have a real problem with that, and I will speak out about that because she should not oppose that.
Well, she should not, because she is one of the perpetrators of that. Okay, and the problem really is the politicization of everything that's going on, where people believe that the Republicans are corrupt, but the Democrats are not. That's bullshit. They're just as corrupt, identically. No,
Listen,
the Republican Party is not plenty. There are no more corrupt politicians in the Republican Party than there are in a Democratic Party. That is a fact.
I'm sorry. I see. I've just been poring over, looking through.
I'm sorry, but I also see, when I look at Clearing the Fog's profile, he's not followed by anybody that I'm following or follows me.
So I have
that's fine. That's fine, man. But
you're
talking about corruption. Do you seriously not see that?
You just seem to be wanting to put out a narrative. You're arguing about something that I don't think you even really truly give a shit about.
Well, hold on. I have an interesting question. You said that the Republicans, wouldn't the fact that our president is currently sitting president has more corruption dollar-wise than about 50 Republicans put together? I mean, are you kidding me?
I'm sorry.
Are you fucking kidding me, bro? Give me some numbers. You can't.
Give you some numbers?
Can't come in here. You can't come in here and just throw out.
Who the hell is who's talking?
This was a normal. This was a normal conversation until 3 seconds ago.
Hey America.
Oh, okay.
Hey America. You got 820 followers. You got 820 followers. Fogg has 18,000. Shut your fucking mouth.
Okay.
Guys,
yeah,
come on.
it has nothing to do with that.
Nice.
It has to do with being a reasonable
calm down. I can't see who's talking.
Hey, I'm just a question. I'm happy to answer.
Hey, Felix, you mind if I jump in here?
Follow that dude?
Anytime, sure.
I know we're jumping around on topics, but I had two quick questions. First, can you tell us when it was that people from the DNC were, reaching out to you, trying to sort of gather info on Trump?
They weren't directly from the DNC. They like I said, the group that I was working with, 6 of 9 of their main people were Clinton administration people, and one of them won
Mhm.
the CIA Service Medal for Intelligence while working at the Clinton administration. So, when I say DNC, that was a misquote. That was a mistake. That I misspoke. But it was people from within the Democratic administrations.
Uh-huh. And so those people, do you remember when it was that they were reaching out to you?
Started as soon as Donald announced his candidacy, like
Uh-huh.
within a month, within 2 months.
And do you think so? You say within a month, that are sort of real early.
Yeah.
Do you have reason to believe that those people were specifically associated with what became the Steele operation? Maybe that's
No.
too early for
They
that.
fed. They definitely they fed information to Christopher Steele, and since I wasn't born last night, it wasn't a coincidence. So
Uh-huh.
there was coordination between Steele and the Clinton campaign.
Gotcha. And just another thing I was curious about. I know that your lawyer had sent a letter to maybe Trump's lawyer, sort of soon
No,
after
to
Trump,
Donald. He sent it to Donald.
to Donald, soon
Yeah.
after Trump announced, and you said, or your lawyer said, here's some information about my background. Maybe your political opponents will try to use this against you. Did you have any specific reason to believe that might happen, or are you just kind of being cautious, saying that just in case?
Well, I already saw the moves that were starting to get made against him, and I completely understood that me being originally born in Russia, with with 2 criminal convictions, that I was just, I was, excuse my language, if they were going to fuck him, I was definitely the condom they were going to use.
And just a reminder, Felix Sater was in the DNC talking points memo. They went through how can we attack Donald Trump, that was leaked. And under business associates, Felix Sater was one of the kind of attack points that they listed in that document.
Good point, Nick. I was going to say your website probably has that stuff on it.
Which one is that?
There was a DNC memo going on talking points on Donald Trump as he was. This was leaked, I think, in early 2016, and it was basically like a compendium of like articles that they could share, as attack talking points.
Look, using dirt on your opponents in politics is as old as fire. Everyone does that, and I understood that, and I wanted to make sure that. I mean, Donald knew some of these things before that, but I wanted to give him a factual based, supported by U.S. government documents, and it's kind of hard to argue anything that I did when Loretta Lynch, which was Obama's attorney general, confirmed a lot of this herself. So it's not like, the Republicans are just saying this about Felix. It was Loretta Lynch who said these things.
Felix, can I ask something about? So in this same time period, okay, there's the letter to Donald, kind of just slightly briefing him. You already see like kind of big thematic moves happening, and then at the same time, Simpson and ABC News, all the reporters start descending on you, like in the fall of 2015, right?
Yes. I don't remember when was Brian Ross's special that he came out with. I don't remember the
it
date.
was in December
2015. Yeah.
It was in December.
That's when it started.
Although, like, I see them like calling you and Garton and other people up for quotes as early as September. So anyway, this is my question. Oh shit! I already forgot.
Those are the best questions. The ones you forget.
I know, right? I guess my question was going to be something. Shit, it was along the lines of like you see these moves happening. I think maybe my question was going to be, if you recall, possibly when you got the first heads up about like maybe Simpson's operation specific.
No, I got my heads up. Literally, I found out only recently that in fact Simpson shared the stuff with Brian Ross, because Brian Ross and what the hell was the name of his producer? Matthew Mosk, right? Reached out to me to try to interview me, and I didn't go for the interview, but I said, my attorney will speak to you. And they gave him such a show. They showed him all over ABC, took him to, that's their thing. They show you where it's recorded and here's where it's going to happen. And they completely lied about what they were asking about. And Robert Wolf, my attorney, did give them a lot of the intel stuff. They never said any of that, obviously, because they were on a mission. They were on a mission to shit on Donald Trump. So you can't shit on Donald Trump by calling, by alerting everyone to the things that I've done in defense of our country. You have to talk about, Russian collusion and all the other crap that they were lying about.
Of course. Okay, so I remember the question now.
Isn't it ironic that they accused Donald Trump of Russian collusion when it was actually Hillary's team that was colluding with the Russians?
I think there's some specific things that are important, though, like the fact that, because we know that, Russia is the one who hacked the DNC, because Paul Ryan and McCarthy both admitted it themselves. And we know that that data is what made it to Assange, and Roger Stone and the RNC were coordinating during Trump's campaign. Were coordinating with Assange on the timing of those dumps of the DNC.
No, they weren't coordinating it. That's bullshit.
No, that's what was proven in Roger Stone's trial.
No, it wasn't. That's not what happened.
Sure, it was.
They weren't coordinating anything.
He was actively working with Assange.
He was not actively there. How? That didn't happen. He got some tips from Randy Credico, who met with some of the Assange lawyers. He wasn't coordinating anything. That's bullshit.
No, he was lying. He was lying about that.
That's bullshit.
When I went to see Assange in August 2017, Assange said at length how he wished Roger Stone would stop making up that they had an alliance.
Yeah, it's bullshit. So, come with facts or don't come at all.
No, that Roger Stone went to prison for lying about it.
No,
he didn't go to prison for lying about that. He went to prison for lying about his contacts with Randy Credico, etc.
Right, he was making up a story that didn't.
He wasn't making up a story. He wasn't coordinating with WikiLeaks. Who was he coordinating with then?
But can I ask a question? I have an interesting question. What is everyone's opinion about WikiLeaks and Assange?
I think
he's a journalist.
Julian Assange ran a team of hackers that hacked Iceland's police department. I hacked some of our police departments. Hacked the New York Times. Several journalistic outlets, hacked other places, and he actually dumped disinformation.
I think that's an interesting switch. That's an interesting change of conversation.
And that's not right either.
And this is
Ziggy, whatever his name is, made that up because he was in contact slightly with the LulzSec guys. He made it up. Ziggy's a freaking liar. That's what's his name? The Icelandic dude. That's bullshit too.
There are like a dozen.
He didn't run LulzSec. Yeah, I know. I understand this. This is the lie about it, though, because Ziggy, whatever his name is in Iceland, just made that shit up. That just came out in that report
Ziggy
because
Stardust?
he's a.
I will tell you,
Sigmund, whatever his name is.
I met with Assange for 3 hours in August 2017 with Congressman Rohrabacher, and I can tell you to this day.
Wait, is this Chuck? Are you Chuck Johnson?
I am Chuck, yes.
Okay.
I'm banned on this app. Don't tell him.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Chuck,
I got
how
you,
are
man.
you?
Hey, nice to see you, Chuck. Good job.
I'm well. I will tell you, I to this day don't really understand what Assange is about, but I do think he should come back and face the charges against him, and he should also
I'm fine with that.
With a conversation he and I had, which was very unsettling. I mean, he was rather emphatic that it wasn't just the Russians; it was a whole bunch of countries that were using him as a conduit. And I can tell you that when I came back to the United States, I was immediately hacked by an Israeli firm, within seconds of being in the U.S. So I've often, I'm no fan of the Russians, but I can tell you that the idea that there was just the Russians trying to influence the 2016 election is somewhat far-fetched. And I think we can see that now with some of the indictments against the Russians and against the Egyptians and the UAE folks.
Totally agree with that.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. He was getting data from multiple different foreign sources.
Every foreign
here's a question.
Guys, every foreign
So
agent.
back to Felix.
Here's a quick question. So if if there weren't any kind of interaction, then why did Dana Rohrabacher go and basically offer a pardon to Assange
That
if
didn't
he would?
happen. I was there. Just so
He
you
said
know,
that
That's
Dana's
bullshit. That
hearing
didn't
aids weren't
happen
working.
either. That's obviously it didn't happen.
Dana Rohrabacher
But
admitted
how
that he
could
did.
Dana Rohrabacher
No,
offer
Dana didn't
anybody
admit it.
immunity?
Just to be
He's
clear
not the
about
Justice
this.
Department.
To be clear about this, because I was debriefed by I think it was 6 different government agencies for what was a 3-hour meeting. Okay, what happened was I was asked by our intelligence services to go talk to Julian Assange. I used Dana Rohrabacher as kind of the decoy to have people focus on Rohrabacher. And Dana is an old man. He did not have his hearing aids working that day. And what happened was Julian Assange, a whole bunch of people had different incentives to say what happened in that meeting. Now, unbeknownst to them, that meeting was actually, the entire content of it was recorded by British intelligence, just to be clear about that. So this idea that, that's what happened. No, what happened was I went over there with Dana Rohrabacher. I was the one who set up the meeting because I had contacts with with Assange through the old Dershowitz network, because Dershowitz had represented him in 2010. And I brought over Dana, who is very close to the Russians, admittedly, but is a friend. He's gone a bit off in recent years. In fairness to him, he's kind of an older guy, to be honest. And I went over there, set up the meeting. It was a 3-hour meeting. My job there was to record, to have the meeting, to reach out to Assange and then record all of the foreign governments that then reached out to me after the meeting. And at the time, there was about 17 different countries that reached out after we had that meeting. So there's a lot of misinformation about what happened there. And it's only now that Trump is out of office that I'm allowed to even speak about some of these things now.
Can I ask a question? To Felix or anyone, are we really? Paul Ryan and other people have said that it was Russia that hacked the DNC, but do we really know that? Is that really?
Everybody hacked the DNC.
Well, I think
Russia.
they hacked him, but we don't know who gave them the emails. I mean, Mueller says that, but that's not really relevant, I don't think. But they definitely hacked him, I think.
And
most people think that.
Was it Russian government, or was it Russian government, or was it like some company that was based in Russia, kind of thing?
My view is that it was a group of Russians and Israelis that did it, for what it's worth.
Okay.
Can I just bring up one thing that I thought was interesting? So I think it was in Felix Sater's congressional testimony, and he said, in 2006, who would have thought to cultivate Trump, who was nowhere near the political arena, as an asset or whatever, whereas Hillary Clinton who was actually in government and doing things to move up. That would make way more sense to cultivate her than it would Trump. And I thought that was a very interesting argument.
Well, they did.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened with the Uranium One deal? It
Well,
was given to what's his name?
Here's what I can.
Sure.
Yeah, I would just to tell you very bluntly. Hold on one sec. Yeah, so just to tell you very bluntly, we don't really focus on the role that Paul Singer played in the 2016 election. He is the one who, of course, funded the Fusion GPS dossier. He stayed a never Trump billionaire all the way through. He's very pro-Israel, very pro-Mossad. If you look at his connections, he was also very pro-Rubio. And I believe, someone who's close to him is also pro-Clinton. And so my view is that a lot of what happened in 2016 were different factions within the Russian, Federation and different factions within the Israeli, sort of infrastructure fighting over, Trump versus Hillary. And I think we see this later where, Ehud Barak enters the second Israeli elections. And of course, he was the spy master who was in charge of Epstein. Epstein is apprehended. And of course, we know what happens to him from there. And by the way, within seconds of Epstein being apprehended, Netanyahu is gloating about it on Twitter, just to put that in perspective. So I think there was actually a number of countries playing. And Assange said that he suspected that he had multiple countries contacting him. And I think that is the Russia collusion narrative. While the Russians were obviously involved in various ways in involving themselves in our election, I don't think that they were the only players. And if you think about what Netanyahu would have stood to benefit from having Jared Kushner, a person he's known since he was a child, being in proximity to power, especially given what happened with Charles Kushner and Charles Kushner being this sort of Epstein-like figure over the closeted homosexual Jim McGreevey and all the developments there. Then you can kind of understand some of the other motivations of other players there. And now that we know of things like NSO Group, which, by the way, I was the first person to contact the FBI about NSO Group, we now know that there's a number of hacking operations running around the world involving other countries.
And the Psy Group and all those dudes.
Can I just? Do you really think that Benjamin Netanyahu needed the Kushners like a childhood friend? Benjamin Netanyahu had he has every connection. So to say that it just goes back to some childhood relationship with the Kushners, I know that story. It's very sweet, but no, it's the last person he needed.
Well,
I disagree. I disagree completely.
Yeah, he's very
Netanyahu's very close. Netanyahu was very close to Charlie Kushner for many, many years.
Agreed, and many other people.
Yes, but to say that he didn't need him versus he needed him, if he had that connection, why wouldn't he want somebody that close in power?
Well, I can tell you the FBI denied Jared Kushner a security clearance in large measure because of that relationship. And that's public record, so people can draw their own inferences from that.
Chuck or Felix, is it possible that you could talk a little bit about Kurt Weldon's role, sort of pre-Trump and leading up, whether it's in relation to arms deals or even the bullet points that were provided over to you, Felix, to give to Michael Cohen?
What bullet points were provided to me to give
the
to
bullet points, what everybody calls the peace plan. Sort of the 4 bullet points of
okay.
Crimea.
But Chuck Weldon was not involved in any way with me. I don't even know the man.
Kurt Weldon wasn't?
Kurt Weldon was not involved with me at all.
Maybe not involved with you, but involved in putting the bullet points together with Artemenko.
Listen, I'd love to get into that. Okay. First of all, most people mischaracterize what was in those bullet points. So how did Artemenko come to me? Which is an interesting story. Now, I've known Artemenko for a number of years prior to this situation. And Artemenko came to me and he said, look, I've got a great opportunity. He was a senator in Ukraine at that time, and he was in charge of a committee for the nuclear power plants. And he said, look, we can make a ton of money on this because the guy who's going to be appointed the Minister of Energy is a friend of mine. And we had the Koreans willing to finance refurbishing these power plants. Now, just as a side note, these power plants are like 1950s Soviet power plants. They're all Chernobyl ready. They're all ready to just blow up and, kill millions of people. And he came to me and he said, could you get it financed? And I thought about how to get it. I said, let me take a stab at it. And I spoke to a couple of people, and I came to the conclusion that the only way we could get it financed was something called a PPA, purchase power agreement. So who would buy energy? The people downstream into Europe, which would mean that Ukraine would become energy independent themselves and sell power to Eastern Europe, which was the most anti-Russian thing you could think of. Think of cutting off Russia's ability to sell because a competitor, Ukraine, was selling energy, and nuclear power is the cheapest energy you could produce. So this was the most anti-Russian thing you could think of. And we sat there and we thought, okay, what do we do so that we don't get killed by the Russians for doing it? Well, there's a problem with Crimea. Why don't we try to discuss a Hong Kong solution? Let the Russians pull out of Crimea. let Crimea stay sovereign from Ukraine, but not under Russian control. And then 25 to 50 years later, they could have a vote on whether they want to stay independent or join either Ukraine or Russia. That was the proposal. That was the entire proposal.
Can I ask, was
Sure.
Jan Aronov part of that discussion, Alexander Rolf?
No,
Part
no,
of
no,
that discussion
no.
whatsoever?
Jan introduced me to Artemenko years before, but he was not part of the discussion regarding the power plants. But Jan was originally the one who introduced me to Artemenko.
Oh, gotcha.
People on this call don't really understand the role that the energy markets play in this whole discussion, and that Nord Stream 2 and a lot of the sanctions that were put on the Russians was really leaving them kind of no option but to start interfering in our politics. And if you look at like what's going on now with the Biden administration, they're sort of rolling up a lot of the Russian espionage operations here while they're decreasing the sanctions on things like Nord Stream 2. So it's sort of the opposite policy in a way.
Well, the most anti-Russian thing that Donald did was shut down Nord Stream 2 and force the Europeans to shut it down. And the most pro-Russian thing that Joe Biden did was eliminate that and allow Nord Stream 2 to move forward. So I don't know who's colluding with
Yeah,
Russia.
I agree. I agree with you, Felix. My view was always that Trump was a much bigger colluder with the Israelis and the Saudis and the UAE and the
Yes.
Ukrainians.
Yes.
And my view is that if you look at Zelensky and a lot of the sort of Jewish factions that kind of run Ukraine, not to be seen as an anti-Semite, but basically that's true. I mean, they are one of the more Jewish governments out there. There's also
how could you say that though with Manafort present? Just the people that he surrounded himself with. How could you say that?
Yeah. So just so you know, my view is that Manafort was working for free. And by the way, like
Manafort was a
there's no free lunch.
Nah, Manafort was a sideshow, and Manafort's relationship.
If you recall what happened,
so Manafort was a lobbyist for Yanukovych. Big deal. Like,
I think that
there needs to be a connection there.
A lot of the Mueller investigation was used, in my view, to clean up a lot of loose ends that existed of other beefs that existed with the U.S. government and these other actors out there. And so Manafort, they used a lot of the Yanukovych stuff. And by the way, like, I favored jailing Manafort. I favored a lot of this stuff happening. I'm the only person who was called, by the way, before the Senate Intel Committee, who did not have to testify, which is quite interesting. And the guy who was trying to come after me was a guy named James Wolfe, who was he was, if you recall, he was the one having the affair with the New York Times reporter.
Yeah, he's a jokester.
And then lying about, so what was actually happening is that a number of us who were involved in serving the government in various functions, I mean, Carter Page, Felix, yours truly, who'd been, who'd been in, if not informants, then certainly in the vicinity of being an informant. We were all targeted during this process and this period because people wanted to force us in different ways to do various things. And it was a very ugly time where our own intelligence services, like the FBI and the CIA, weren't on the same page on things. Even different divisions.
They're still not.
They never have been.
They never will be either.
They had a love affair for about 2 weeks after 9/11, and that ended quickly.
Felix knows that, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was sitting in the room when the FBI and the CIA went at each other's throats, and the Secret Service walked in and said, "Both you idiots have to shut the fuck up. We're in control here."
That's why Eric Prince is still walking the earth.
Well, Felix, I was going to ask you, just relating to Eric Prince, are you connected at all with him, related to Artemenko potentially as well?
No, I know Artemenko is working with Prince, but I have nothing to do with that. I'm not in the arms business.
I know Eric, and I advised Eric not to fuck around with any Ukrainians or Russians. Whether he listened to me or not is an open question.
Well, I've heard, because he was trying to privatize Ukraine so he could be their military force, so he could fuck it all up, and Russia could take them all over. Eric
puts a lot of bids out there and doesn't get a lot of bites. And, I don't know what happened there, but I can tell you that, I've known Eric since I was a teenager. He's a gentleman. He's a logistics mastermind, but he's not very clever about who he associates with in business sometimes. And that's a big mistake. And I've said as much to him.
Chuck, were you
I mean, my
interviewed by
understanding was he
Mueller
was.
or any of these committees? Just side topic.
No, I was not interviewed by Mueller's people. Another three-letter agency shut down my interview.
Got it.
I believe the phrase I used at the time was, "There's no fucking way you're going to Carter Page me."
That's probably the right option.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I was just curious. Is Mogilevich still alive?
I have no idea, since I have never met him in my life, nor has anyone in my family ever met him in our lives. And the first time I found out about Simon Mogilevich is when the FBI came to me and said, "We need your help." I said, "What can I do to help?" They said, "There's a company called YBM Magnix that's going public, and we know there's a Russian gangster named Mogilevich behind it. Would you mind looking at the prospectus and tell us where you think we could catch him?" I reviewed the prospectus and showed them where I knew the dirt was. And that was my only connection with Mogilevich, was trying to help the FBI indict him. My father, that same night, I came home, called my father, and said, "Dad, do you know a guy named Mogilevich?" He goes, "I never heard of him in my life. Who is he?" So that's the Mogilevich answer. That is a fact, by the way, and has been confirmed by the U.S. government, that I had no connection with Mogilevich other than helping the U.S. government put him away. I never met him, don't know him, and until the U.S. government told me his name and gave me a prospectus of the company that he was taking public in the United States, have never even heard of him before. Or since, by the way.
Hey, Felix.
Cool. Well, thanks for answering. I was just interested because,
Sure.
we've heard about him before in the past, and I didn't know if he was still alive.
Everyone says no. Everyone says that I was connected to him. That's what the press, that's what the...
There's a lot of that shit that goes on. It's really frustrating because, as Felix knows, when the government asks you for help on things, you can't talk to the press. And so you're in this sort of bind sometimes where you'll get all these weird press inquiries about what you're up to, and you can't do anything because the feds or whoever tells you to shut the fuck up. And so it sucks because people end up reading fake stuff out there, and you can't really defend yourself.
Well, did you ever work with Alexander Masovich?
Yes, I did.
Gotcha. And you were working, I guess you had mentioned you had a card, or at least that's what I've read. You had a card that you had worked in Trump Towers, and he had denied that you had worked in there, but clearly you did because we saw pictures. But
I was three doors down from him. It
in
was his office. Right? It was his office. Then it was his office. Then it was Rona Graff, his secretary. Then Jason Greenblatt, and then my office.
Well, I went to all of Matrovich's weddings. Just thought, I've been looking at my pictures trying to see if maybe you were in them, and I've not been able to locate you. So I didn't know if maybe you possibly were at his daughter's wedding.
Felix, could you talk about the role of Chabad in a lot of these networks, and what people know about that?
Sure. Chabad is the largest Jewish organization of synagogues. It's a sect, a Jewish sect, where the Hasidic rabbis, which is the very Orthodox rabbis, unlike the other Orthodox sects, believe in being very inclusive and bringing everyone, even if they're not very religious, into the synagogue. And because
missionaries.
of that, yeah, definitely, they're missionaries to Jewish people. And because of that, they have grown rapidly and spread throughout the world. I don't think there's any place in the world that doesn't have a Chabad house. And therein lies the entire connection. If I need any contacts anywhere in the world, I'll call my rabbi and he'll introduce me to the rabbi in Bangladesh or Bangalore or Boston.
Right. They're like a intelligence network, it's fair to say, right?
Not really. No, it's purely religious. It's purely religious. They're not working on intelligence. They don't work against any of the governments in any of the places they're at. In fact, for instance, the chief rabbi of Russia is a Chabad rabbi. But the problem is the Chabad organization has a lot of issues because Putin is not letting out the works of the great rabbi. who they tried to
Right.
kill and imprison.
Rabbi Schneerson.
Rabbi Schneerson's actually Rabbi Schneerson's father-in-law. They can't get his paperwork out of there, and Putin literally set up a museum of his paperwork. And the rabbi from Chabad of Russia showed up at the grand opening, but it's completely inconsistent with sort of like this worldwide sort of intel organization. It's just
yes. Let's be very careful here. Let's be
Felix,
very careful
What do
here.
you make of Felix? What do you make of the decision of Jared Kushner and Ivanka to pray at Rabbi Schneerson's grave on the day of election in 2016? And Jared's involvement. I mean, the first thing he puts in his Harvard yearbook is Chabad Society of Harvard, that it's one of his proudest organizations that he's a part of. What do you make of that?
Very normal. That's very normal for some Jewish students.
People who actually know what we're talking about are talking right now. Maybe you could talk in a
Yeah,
second.
I am. Yes, I am. Yes. Do you know who I am?
Felix, could you answer the question?
To answer it, I'll tell you, one of the proudest moments in my life was when Chabad of Port Washington made me the Man of the Year. So seeing them go to pray at Schneerson's grave, which I have done hundreds of times, put a smile on my face, and it was one of the most wonderful moments of that entire administration that I saw.
Yeah, I'll say it's interesting because I think the role of the shul, right, and the role of Jared's religious life is sort of like underexplored, right? Like there's a lot of interesting stuff there because, of course, they came and ministered to him. The Chabad rabbis did when his father went to prison.
Yes,
and it's kind of interesting to see that kind of thing. Because as I understand it, Josh is not particularly observant or religious.
How does that jive with him having a relationship with Casey Grind and MBS? Like, is it just all about the money?
Who's Casey Grind?
Casey Grind's MBS's financial advisor over in London, and then that's the conduit between MBS and Jared Kushner.
Yeah, but
how do they jive doing business together? Is it just about the money? Because philosophically,
not at all.
Big divide.
Actually, the Israelis, which are Jews, are very much in bed right now with the Saudis because they have a common enemy, which is Iran.
Yep.
There's no disparity there.
Yep.
And the United States is just their arms dealer.
Well, the United States is arms dealer to a lot of places of the world.
Everywhere.
Well, somebody's got to sell them arms, right?
Sometimes it's just a jump in between, right?
Well,
let's not turn this into a conversation about how Jews have made friendships across the world because they were forced to. That's our history. That's what we do. So
nobody's making this
Felix.
Nobody's making.
We're talking about specific organizations that have specific members,
specific individuals,
that have specific involvement.
I'd like to say something. I'd like to say something, guys. So the Chabad organization is one of the most amazing organizations, and because of that, many contacts are made. But at the organizational level, at the very, very top, it's all about missionary work, and it's all about expanding Chabad, and not political, and only financial to the point of having contributions made to the local Chabad houses. But when an organization like that has that much reach, it's very easy to make connections. And like I said,
agreed.
I've used the Chabad network myself on numerous occasions, so I can attest to what Felix is saying is true.
But the rabbi is not interested in your politics, and he's not interested in that. He's helping another fellow Jew. You showed up and you said, listen, I'm here and I'm in construction business. Can you introduce me to people in construction? He'll introduce you to people in construction at his synagogue. That doesn't make it a conspiracy of, to rig construction prices. It just means your rabbi is making introductions.
That's right. And look, there are some elements that are criminal, just as there are with every religious tradition, I think is fair.
Exactly. There you go. Let's leave it at that. Let's leave it at that.
We were saying.
It is true that there's state-sanctioned Judaism in Russia is the Chabad center, which, by the way, is a very beautiful center. I think it's like a $20-30 million property. It's really quite amazing what the relationship between Rabbi Sasha and Putin. I mean, that's sort of something that's not really. It's sort of not political. We're not sort of allowed to talk about these things in the West. The idea of a state-sanctioned Judaism is kind of a crazy idea to us,
especially in an anti-Semitic place like Russia, where they're hardcore anti-Semites, hardcore. It was, and actually, the rabbi told me the story at one of the times when he brought a bunch of Russian oligarchs to the Ohel, which is Rabbi Schneerson's gravesite. And he told me the story. A bunch of other people were sitting there it's called a Farbrengen. And the reason that Putin has a soft spot in his heart for Jews, there's a lot of Jews within his circle, by the way. A lot of people close to him are Jews. It's a very, very simple reason. Or so I was told by the head rabbi of Russia.
Yeah, he was a Shabbat boy, actually, back in the day. He He had this Jewish family that took care of his parents were gone, and he took care of them by basically taking care of their obligations on Saturday.
It wasn't really a Shabbos Goy story. And yes, that may have been the case, but I just want to expand upon it. What happened was Putin's parents were both Communist Party workers. They weren't just members. They worked for the Communist Party. And long hours, as you would expect in any, like everybody in Washington works till 8, 9 o'clock in the evening also. And on the same floor was a Jewish family. It was a very educated, beautiful family. I think the mother was like a piano teacher or something. The father was a college professor or something like that. And he said that he's never seen, and he would go there for dinner almost on every night because his parents were not around.
Their son died in the Great War, and that's why they sort of like adopted him. They were an older couple, if I recall.
Yeah, and exactly. And he said that he has never seen such love and such caring by anybody. And that left a fondness in his heart for Jewish people. And as he got older, he made a lot of Jewish friends and maintained them. And they're still, friends with him.
So, Felix, to what extent do you think we should just allow, like Crimea is a heavily Russian area, Donbass is a heavily Russian area. To what extent should we just allow the Russians to have those territories, we in the West, or like how do you think about this?
Very, very interesting question. This is something that I've been speaking about for the last week with various friends. I was just on the phone with my friend Slava in Moscow earlier today. So let's take a historical view. Russia was an empire, and they want to be an empire again. And Putin would love to reconstitute the former Soviet Union. He'd love to bring Ukraine back. He's already brought Belarus back. This incident in Kazakhstan is definitely going to give him influence over them. And what should we do? I don't know. I'm certainly anti-Russian, very much anti-Russian. My first job for the U.S. government was working for the DIA in Moscow, spying on Russia at the risk of my life, because if they would have caught a Jew who left Russia as a child coming back to spy on them, what was said to me by Milton Blaine, who was a senior intel officer for the DIA, he said, Felix, if you get caught, you should hope for a bullet in the head, because if you don't get one, you're going to see the spot and the little room where it says Wallenberg was here, and nobody will ever hear from you again, and we will not step up for you. We won't be able to. So
did you bring a suicide pill with you? Did you ask for that as part of the request to help them?
They don't give suicide pills, or at least they didn't give me one. They basically didn't even give me a fucking pencil to go work. I had to go buy my own pencil and paper. But
U.S. government for you?
Yeah, of course. So I am very anti-Russian, and when I tried, they used to come to my school here on Park Avenue to recruit us because it was an anti-Soviet school. It was St. Sergius Academy, and I went there because it was a Russian school, and my parents sent me there for 1 year to try to, so I could learn how to read and write in Russian and a little history. And all the military agencies would try to recruit us, because this was still during the Cold War, because we were native Russian speakers. And they said, well, why should we let you into the armed forces? What if there's a war and you still have some family over there? We're sure. What would happen? I said, well, I'd be the first volunteer to bomb the Kremlin. And they said, well, why would you say that? I said, because the Russians executed both my great-grandparents because the Russians have been abusing Jews for the last couple of 100 years. I was never born Russian. In my passport, it said Jew. They never considered me Russian. I don't consider myself Russian.
Yeah, people
I
don't
went,
know this. In the former Soviet Union, they would list your ethnicity, not your nationality. There was no way a Jew could become a Russian citizen. And
so I was never Russian. I'm a Russian. I'm a Russian. I was a Jew born in Russia.
but do
That's
you
about it.
consider yourself a refusenik, Felix?
Yes.
And what's your sense on, like, the Natan Sharansky situation with Likud? I mean, is your sense that he was a KGB defector, or like how do you think about Natan Sharansky?
He probably was. He probably did have to cooperate. I don't know if he was a KGB agent, but certainly for him to have been let out, there had to be some quid pro quo. But Natan Sharansky is a very pro-Israeli guy, and a lot of people had to do a lot of crazy shit to survive. So I can't really comment on that, and I don't want to defend it, nor do I want to crucify it.
No, I'm just curious what your thoughts are as somebody's from the community. Like, I know it's a big topic of debate.
Yeah. Well, Natan Sharansky certainly it deserves his due for bringing light to a lot of this. So, I mean, even if he wasn't the best of people, the result is a very positive one. So, he gets accolades from me on that.
What do you think of the Solzhenitsyn book, 200 Years Together? Have you read it? Are you familiar with it?
I have not read it. I read his other book, but I didn't read 200 Years Together. But Solzhenitsyn was an anti-Semite. Fuck him.
You think so? I mean,
yeah,
Putin and
yes.
others. Yeah, interesting. All right, fair enough.
Yeah. I think he was an anti-Semite.
Hey, Felix, with just a separate topic.
Sure.
Heli Namad got pardoned last day of Trump's.
Who? I'm sorry, who?
Heli Namad.
I don't know.
He was part of the Trump Tower gambling ring.
Okay.
That was Vadim Trincher's.
Yeah, I know Trincher.
Apartment that Trincher sold to Bayrock, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I know. No, Bayrock never bought Trincher's apartment. Where'd you get that information? That's not true. I know Trincher. I know Trincher. I know his wife. We had lunch a bunch of times while he was still in jail. I know his son, who's one of the top poker players in the United States. But Bayrock never bought Trincher's apartment. We had nothing to do with his apartment.
I thought it went from like an oligarch to Trincher to Bayrock, or Tefik Arif.
No, Tefik Arif never bought Trincher's apartment, or neither did Bayrock, Tefik Arif. And I'm not covering it up. I'm just telling you there was no connection between Trincher's apartment
and clarity.
Yeah, there was nothing to do with us or Trincher's apartment. I've been in that apartment numerous times just because I know them. But what was your question about Helen Ahmad?
So Namad was one of the
art dealer
captains, in the poker
right
ring and sports book that was being run out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Any sense of who would have actually gone to Trump to lobby to sit there and say, "Hey, on your way out, can you make sure that you don't forget about?"
I think he may have.
Namad.
I can't answer honestly, but he may have known Namad personally.
Right.
Namad was a pretty serious art dealer in New York.
Christie's, right?
Yeah. So Trump may have known him, but I can't answer to that. I don't know, and I'm speculating at this point.
Sure. Thank you.
And I think that Washington Man of the Year honor, I think, is posted on your YouTube channel, Felix, which is really great, and people can check that out. That when you got that award, I was wondering if I could ask a question really quick. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for participating in this discussion, because people that are actually involved with Russiagate and all of these events, actually talking to normal people just off the street, it makes such a huge difference in I don't know, feeling connected to them and feeling like you can trust what's actually happening, and that includes you, Chuck, as well. I mean, that happened with Sergey Millian. He actually interacted with a lot of these researchers, and we kind of formed a bond. And it's like he can't say everything that he knows because there's ongoing investigations, but at least you sort of try to understand where he's coming from, and can kind of help the situation as you can. But so my question is, and I know that your history is kind of littered with minefields of stuff that we can't talk about and all that kind of stuff. But as it relates to Andrew Weissman, do you have thoughts on him today? Do you do you have a relationship with him, or what do you feel like he's doing right now is affecting you?
Let me say this to you. My relationship with Andrew Weissman is one of cooperator and prosecutor. We developed a fondness for each other based on professional relationship, not based on a personal relationship. And Andrew Weissman saved my ass twice. Once early on when I had to go before Judge Glasser and get sentenced. And he really stepped up for me. And then the second time when Jeannie Rhee from the Mueller team wanted to hang my ass out on a meat hook, he stepped in and said, look, I've known Felix for many years and I've never, ever caught him lying. And there were many times when he could have lied to save his ass and he didn't. And if he's saying what he's saying, I'm going to err on believing him until I find out otherwise. And that changed the whole dynamic of the Mueller team's attitude towards me, because when I walked in, all the young little prosecutors were sitting there rubbing their arms and saying, that's it, shit. For as soon as we nail his ass to the wall and nail Trump, we're going to make partner at the major law firm and we're going to be rich. And then Jeannie Rhee stepped in and she wanted to just tear me a new asshole. And
what do you make of her, by the way, Felix? What's your real sense of what's going on with her? I could never get a good read on her.
She's a balls to the wall prosecutor, and that's a whole separate topic of conversation. And
also, Felix, I wanted to ask on the subject you're talking about. I don't know if the discussions even got to the preliminary level, but do you have any sense, even conjecture, on what the fuck kind of charges she would have attempted to bring or even scare you with? Or does Wolf know? Or
everything under the sun, conspiracy. Just listen. You give a prosecutor 5 minutes, you're breathing. Breathing and not paying for the air, and that's probably tax fraud. Yeah, no. You have to understand who prosecutors are. So just understand that at Christmas parties, prosecutors over beers brag to each other about how many years they put people in jail for. So if you understand what a prosecutor is.
Yeah, it's sick. It's not good.
Yeah. So
and then brag about how much money they make in private practice when they switch sides.
Well, they usually suck as soon as they get to the private practice, because the toughest prosecutors, their thing is when they talk to you, it's, if you fuck around with us, we're going to come down on you with the full force and weight of the whole U.S. government to scare them. And then as soon as they get out of the U.S. government, they don't have that with them. And they wind up, like lost souls, because all their strength is gone. It's like the kid, the big bully who has a gang in school. If he's no longer in a gang and no one else is with him, how much of a bully can he be? You could basically smack him around if you want. That's exactly what happens with prosecutors. Most prosecutors are not successful after they get out. They're just used as a sort of, to get business. Oh, they did this in this case. But prosecutors generally are not the best lawyers. Don't kid yourself. Most people don't know this. But the best and brightest don't work for, $80,000 a year when their classmates are making $500. So they go there so that they can have some experience and then potentially get into a good firm. Because if they tried to get into a good firm out of law school, they'd be, shining shoes.
For office, right? I mean, that's the other process is they run for office. That's a big thing you see with them.
Well, back to what's the problem with our system right now. Our president. How many days has he had a square job in his life? Has he ever had a job in his life? Does he actually know what it is to draw a paycheck from hard work? And we elect these people. This is not an anti-Biden rant by any stretch of the imagination. It's an anti-politician rant.
Who else would want to be a politician? If you can go make money, why would you subject yourself to the bullshit of public office?
Well, I think it should be mandated for citizens to be in public office of some way or another. I have my own thoughts on how to fix our democracy. First and foremost is we should make election day a national holiday, because the problem is the people voting is a little lopsided because everyone who's working is at work, which will never happen because there wouldn't be a Democrat elected in the next 100 years if they made it a national holiday. So I have my own thoughts on fixing our democracy, but nobody's asking me. So
Hey, I have a question. I got a question there.
sure.
So going back, people, I got disconnected earlier, but talking about corruption on both sides of the aisle.
Mhm.
And you were also talking about your experience in the community, whether on, again, Russian side or the U.S. side, the turf wars between CIA versus FBI or GRU versus SVR, etc. Like a domestic international divide, and the whole, I forget what they called it, like the wall problem on 9/11 as an intelligence failure.
The toilet paper story, Felix.
My question was this: given your experience just in that community, do you have any opinions on the intelligence failure in general, in terms of FBI and the intelligence community's receipt of the Steele dossier? What agencies or what individuals, if any, do you have any opinions there? Who shares the biggest blame here? Do you have any ideas on that?
Well, the FBI certainly has a major failure there.
Definitely.
They knew that somebody they themselves accused of being potentially a Russian agent, was working with him, and that's where he was getting a lot of information from. It was a major failure by them, in my opinion. But given the fact that certain higher ups, and you all know their names, were colluding and trying to make sure that Donald didn't win, it's kind of obvious where
Felix,
the failures were.
Felix,
how
do
did
you
you
think
feel
though
on
that
election
Bruce
night?
and Nellie Orr didn't
Felix, how did you,
disclose to people?
Of course they didn't.
Felix,
And
how
that's
did you
where the
feel on
breakdown
election
came
night
from?
when
I
Trump?
don't know if that's where the breakdown was, but they certainly didn't disclose. Of course, that was a major internal flaw of Bruce and Nellie, and it was politicized, and they were literally getting instructions from the other side, and that sort of comes to proof of they reinstated the guy and his pension. They should have, what Trump did was right, and the Democrats wanted to thank him for politicizing the FBI and fucking around and with the elections, and those people should be tried for election interference. They were supposed to serve and protect us, the citizens, when in fact what they did was use the agency in its worst form ever. That made the shit that the founder did of that agency pale in comparison.
Has anyone asked Felix? Felix, do you have any opinions about Durham? Do you have any insider information that you could give us about him and what's going on? And what's your opinion of that whole situation?
I don't know. It's very closed loop. It's very closed-lipped, very closed-looped. I'm just hoping he's going to get to the bottom of this. Sussman was a bit player, if nothing else, and he was getting instructions from others. And I hope he keeps going higher, because all these people need to be indicted. Because at the end of the day, from a personal standpoint, my life was completely ruined with this Trump-Russian collusion, when in fact it was the Clinton-Russian collusion. They literally accused me and Donald Trump of doing what they were doing. That is the most disgusting and despicable part of it all. It would be
I'm
the
not saying you're
equivalent.
doing it, Felix, but like, what about Caputo? Somebody like a Caputo, you can't say wasn't fucking around Russian wise and being sort of a back channel of sorts. It was happening on both sides. Like, I'm not saying
Do
one
you
was
have
right
any
and one was
evidence
not.
of that actually happening, or are you just speculating?
Well, I just want you all to think about it in this fashion so that you understand what I lived through. Think about being accused of being a pedophile by Jeffrey Epstein before he was arrested, and having him use his money and his power to get it out all over the press and call you a pedophile when Jeffrey Epstein having some problem with you and accusing you of being that. How would you feel? Now, answer how you would feel that after he got convicted, not one of those news sources ever bothered to correct the record of what they did before. That's exactly the position I'm in.
And just to respond to whoever asked that question, you should go and go to Cody Av's YouTube page and listen to Michael Caputo's rant about Mueller and what he did to his family too. So before you talk about him messing around with Russia, you should listen to his entire story and how much Mueller fucked up his family. So you should go on there.
No,
okay, then why do you think without any evidence, why are you saying that he was fucking around in Russia then?
He went over there at the behest of Clinton. He
Yeah.
had all those relationships. He had different
Okay, but
meetings
where's
with
your evidence that he was
Greenberg.
doing anything in relation to Russia and colluding? Or are you just
He lied about
talking
the
out of
whole
your ass?
Greenberg piece.
He lied about
What
what?
do you mean he did not lie about it? He remembered and he told the prosecutors about Hank Greenberg and all that shit. That's the point. Remember they were going to, whatever his name was, Zelensky was going to try to nail him on the Hank Greenberg contact, and his lawyers went through and found it, and he was honest and told him about Hank Greenberg.
He told his version of it. But
he told his version of it, which you don't have any clue of what actually happened.
I have one question for everyone. So, I've got proof, and everyone knows it, that I spied on Russia on behalf of the United States. So accusing me of being a Russian anything is just retarded. But
nobody did that, just to be clear.
I know, but here's my question. We're all very much talking about Russia and did they hack us and was there any collusion and who was responsible? I have one question. Do you think we hack Russia on a daily basis?
We damn well better.
No, that wasn't the question. Do you think we hack Russia on a daily basis?
Of course the United States hacks Russia.
There you go.
I would hope so.
There you go. Everybody
they do. That's
is hacking
obvious.
Everybody else. These conversations about who's doing it, the better question is, who do you think isn't doing it? Who hacked the United States? Everyone.
Felix, what are your thoughts on what's really going on with Cambridge Analytica?
Wow, those guys got shut down. Unfortunately, they were a pretty smart outfit, but they were just on the wrong side.
Thoughts on Rebecca Mercer?
Zero.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to bounce out. This is awesome, Julie, by the way, and Felix, fascinating as ever.
Just wanted to say that I'm really appreciative of the fact that I was invited. I'm also appreciative that you people think that my story is even interesting. That any of you people would sit there and spend so much time thinking that my story was interesting.
Yes, so great.
And I appreciate it. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Felix. I'm going to bounce. Thanks, Julie, Ryan. I'll see you guys next time.
Felix, will you take one more question? Will you take one more question?
Of course.
So what do you think actually, in your experience with, Russian oligarchs and paralleling that to our current American political environment, what do you think really motivates people? Is it fear? Is it money? Again, you said about greed is your biggest tool.
Well,
is it power? I would have thought it was power, but it's simply.
I hope I understand your question, and hopefully my answer reflects my understanding. There are and I had this conversation with a journalist actually who's writing a very big piece on Abramovich right now. It's going to come out in a month, I think. It's a huge piece. So look, let's call it 100 oligarchs, right?
What's the piece, Felix, so we know where to look for it?
He's gonna. I can't because he's writing the piece now. It would be inappropriate for me to.
on your Twitter or something.
when he's going to send me a link, because I'll be quoted in it, so you'll see it. Look, out of 100 oligarchs, 20 are very close to Putin and part of the power structure. The other 80 are just doing what they're told to do because they're afraid. That's the story with the oligarchs there. But for the most part, would like to say that about 80% of them are in it for the money, not the power. The other 20 are, in bed with the power structures and, go to bed
And
at night.
it's an unfortunate situation for them almost. Like,
it's very unfortunate for all of
yeah.
them.
Like you almost want to be a lower level guy.
You almost want to not be worth $1 billion. You want to be worth 800 million, be forgotten, so you could travel and not be on sanctions lists.
And do these guys know that? Like, do they get it?
Of course they do. But what choice do they have?
But do they get sucked in, or are they choosing that path?
Well, it's a choice they have. It's do you want to go to jail for 20 years or do what we say?
No, I mean, to get into the 20, to get in, are these people choosing to get? Are they just so alpha that they're like, I need to be that guy?
Probably.
Or are they getting sucked in?
Probably both. Probably a little of both.
Okay. And do they feel like they're gaining some kind of power? Do they feel like they're getting anything out of this? I mean, I feel like it's a pretty fucked up relationship with Putin. Like, I don't know, hey, I ain't there. I ain't talking to the guy, but you are. And that's why I asked the question earlier.
Yeah, but what's the alternative? Not
that just
to be
like
rich?
some well, yeah, but just like some regular, like,
would you rather have a yacht?
I feel bad calling you regular. I'm not calling you regular.
But would you rather have a yacht and a private plane, or would you rather work 12 hours a day on the assembly line?
But that's not the option.
Choice. That's an easy choice.
The option is the yacht and the private plane, or the yacht and the private plane and the possibility of getting like fucking murdered.
No,
for not
this is not America. You don't get to become a billionaire in that place without approval and oversight by Putin.
You're a
that bad?
They tell you what to do. It's pretty obvious. That obviously happens here too. I mean, you think Jeff Bezos, grandfather's number 4 at DARPA, he just woke up one day and got the CIA contracts for Amazon? Of course, this is how it works.
No, I understand that's how it fucking works, dude. But just the idea that, like, how do you transition from the 80% of, like, the rich billionaire to the 20% of the power structure? Why would anybody want to choose to work with him?
You're selected. You don't get a choice.
To get more power, more money. It's an alpha thing. How do you measure, how do you
So
measure
it is a choice of power.
No, in some cases it is, and in some cases you get chosen. There's no one line. You can't paint everyone with the same brush across the board. It doesn't work. Some people want to get in and can't, and some people are in and dying to figure out how to get out.
Yeah. Oh God, I hate it for him. Honestly, I fucking hate it for him.
Felix, I have a question. I'm really interested in what happened in the Middle East during Trump's presidency. A lot happened, and a lot of it wasn't covered very well, and especially with Saudi Arabia. MBS coming to power right after Trump became president. Trump obviously had the Prince Al-Walid feud going on, at least on Twitter. How much was Trump involved in that? Were you involved in that at all? And was Eric Prince really there holding Prince Al-Walid upside down in a hotel?
Well, I think the Prince holding Al-Walid upside down in a hotel is complete bullshit. Okay, that's just a fantasy of somebody that could never have happened. It's just impossible. I think it was an internal thing, and no, I wasn't involved, and I think it was just MBS coming to power and cleaning house.
Mm-hmm.
And just consolidating power and taking away. They basically just took half their money away. They basically all called them to the palace and say, "You're going to sign over half."
Right. There was a lot of realignment that happened in the Middle East during Trump's presidency.
Oh yeah. And most of
I don't think he gets enough credit for that. Was he really instrumental in that, or?
He was. So I want you to know that we had these conversations way before he ever came to power, and way before Ivanka married Jared. And he was always of this opinion. So he's got to be given credit for what happened in the Middle East. And right now, they're trying to undo that, which is going to be the greatest catastrophe ever. We just tend to really fuck things up in the Middle East every time we do anything. And Donald really put it on a good path, and it was going in the right direction. And it's getting all screwed up. Most people don't understand that all you have to do is read your Bible. Armageddon. It's going to happen in the Middle East. And
please don't say that, because it really does trigger some people for some very unhealthy. Please don't say that.
And what is the real story with the Kazakhstan uprising? Is that like people are saying it's a CIA color revolution, or is it organic?
No, there was nothing. First of all, there was nothing organic, and the CIA doesn't have any pull there. I mean, I'm very friendly with a guy who. I'm sorry.
It's China versus Russia. I was in Kazakhstan in 2019. It's
always China versus Russia and Kazakhstan. They're caught between two superpowers. But this specific situation was nothing more than the old guard, which is Nazarbayev's boys, trying to show Tokayev that that he's just a caretaker, and to shut the fuck up. And they started all of these protests to show Tokayev who's boss. It got out of control, and Tokayev turned the tables on them. And now Nazarbayev is out, and all his team is out, and there's going to be a lot of heads rolling. Like, whoever's been in power for the last 30 years is going to be removed, and they're going to go after some of the billionaires, and they're going to get rid of Alexander Mashkevich, and they're going to get rid of Timur Kulabayev. They're going to get rid of that whole crew that was with Nazarbayev. Tokayev may have cut a deal with Nazarbayev not to bother him and his family, but everyone below is going down. It was just an internal power struggle.
Felix, I actually had a quick question. Did you ever cross paths with Chuck Dolan, or do you have any knowledge about him?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Felix. This is the old Felix the cat.
I actually am looking at a picture that was drawn for me of Felix the cat. I haven't hung it up yet. It's sitting right in front of me. It's a gigantic Felix the cat oil painting. It's very cool.
Yeah. So you probably remember me in some of the conversations that we had early on.
Sure.
Okay. So I have a question for you. The gentleman who recruited you from the bar over in Russia, he came over here and he was had a arms company in Alabama for years and years.
Milton Blaine.
And that deal where he had recovered the missiles from Russia, obviously that was, an intel supported operation.
Of course.
And he was going to sell the missiles back to Boeing. And
no,
Boeing back.
You're connecting. No? You're connecting two different things.
Okay. So the lawsuit that he got into with Boeing was separate, and it wasn't connected to that same deal.
No, it was not. It was a separate lawsuit. That was just two arms dealers battling it out.
Okay. Well, that was a big question, because that looked like a black money payback to their own people, and I always had a suspicion that maybe
it actually was, but they just listen. They fight within themselves just as often as they work with each other. So Milton was a really smart guy. He had the highest intelligence clearance ever, and people refer to him now as an arms dealer. This guy was a DIA operative from the day he could vote. I mean, he joined up when he was 18 years old and never got out.
Okay. Well,
he was hardcore DIA. But like every other general who retires, they, not every, but you understand my point. They go and they're arms dealers. They're military guys. That's all they know how to do.
Right. Okay. So then the other question I had for you, and I guess there's two parts of it. The documents that I sent you early on that you didn't know that were public and released, and I had posed a question to you about the driver that went from New York to New Jersey along with another person. Were you aware of that when that happened?
I'm sorry. Could you just elaborate a little bit, please?
So So
I don't remember what you sent me.
okay.
I'm sorry.
So going back to the when the tour of the hotels took place in Atlantic City, and and it was the beginning of the um, of the whole Papadopoulos, part of that early New York deal investigation that went on. Were you aware of that tour taking place?
No,
you weren't. Okay.
No, I was not.
Okay.
I was not involved in the casinos. My area of responsibility was development, not the casinos. By the time I became partners with Donald, the casinos he was already out. I mean, he still owned some shares and stuff, but he wasn't controlling it any longer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do we know who those parties involved were?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't. I have no
Felix,
idea.
how did you feel on election night when Trump won?
So, I mean, amazing, just amazing. I mean, look, I'm an immigrant kid, and my partner becomes president of the United States. I was on cloud nine.
What do you think the biggest fuck up of the Trump presidency was?
Getting rolled by Fauci. That was just the biggest intel disaster in Donald's entire administration. They convinced everyone that they needed to lock down so that the mail-in votes swung the election. Fauci fucked them. And Donald had a gigantic, great team of scientists. If you remember, he started that whole group, and he didn't listen to them, and he went with Fauci, and he got fucked.
What do you think he did that? What do you think was going on there?
I just think he made a mistake. I just think he believed them. Fauci's a pretty good bullshit artist. That's coming from a pretty good bullshit artist. I mean, I could, a fisherman could smell another fisherman across the street.
It is pretty crazy that in 1984 he was still saying that you could get HIV/AIDS through like casual contact with people, right? Like the guy's been wrong like throughout his career, and yet he still has a job. It's a pretty sweet deal.
Fauci's a professional politician. He's got nothing to do with medicine or science. What is his connection to medicine and science? He's a politician. He's a hack, and he rolled Donald. And all Donald had to say is wear the mask instead of bite into this bullshit conspiracy. And we're not wearing the mask. Who gives a shit about saying whether you wear the mask or not? But it was the lockdowns that caused mail-in votes, and we know mail-in votes are predominantly Democratic, not Republican, and they fucked them.
Who do you think is the most overrated person in Trump's orbit?
Me.
That's a great answer.
That's a great answer, brother.
Who's the most underrated?
That's great.
The most underrated, Donald. I just saw him 2 weeks ago. That was the best.
You are one humble son of a bitch.
How did he seem? How did he seem when you saw him, Felix?
He's great. He's battling it out there. He loves this shit. Are you kidding me? He loves this shit. People ask me, do you think he's going to run again? If he's dead, he's going to have them dig him up, and put him on the ballot.
Well, he might win then. He might win then, right? If he's a dead person, or is it just dead voters?
Anything doesn't matter. Just the idea of running and being on the front page and being the Donald. It's all worth it.
So if it's not him, right? Like let's say God calls him up to be at the right hand of him. Who do you like out there other than him in the Republican field?
Oh, my favorite team is DeSantis, Tim Scott.
Got it.
Although I like Nikki Haley as well for the VP slot.
Who do you really not like?
Who do I really not like?
Yeah.
Wow, you know me. I love everybody.
Of course.
Do you think there's any way you could convince Donald to get Senator Kennedy to run as his VP?
Which one? The dead one or the live one?
No, the live one.
I don't. No, I can't convince him of anything. Nobody can convince him of anything. This is not a guy that gets convinced. He knows better. And I say that, and it's sort of partially slapstick, because the truth is, He has proven a lot of people wrong many, 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 many times in his life. So I can actually understand why he, listens to his own counsel at the end, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not. But repeatedly, experts have come out wrong on what they predicted about him. So why would he listen to anyone other than himself? And Ivanka, he listens to her.
Who do you think he would pick for a VP for 24?
I have no idea. I don't know. Whoever he would think would deliver the votes.
Hey, Felix, I want to ask a question if I can. With your experience with the FBI, I wanted to get your opinion about the Patrick Byrne story that he tells, and wonder if you think that that's possible, that happened, if you know about it.
So the original allegation of me being a mobster came out by Patrick Byrne in his Deep Capture. He later, if you look him up, he actually retracted that and, believed me that I had nothing to do with any threats against him, which I didn't. I didn't even know who the hell he was. Patrick's story, I'm conflicted. Now that he has backed off and acknowledged that he made a mistake about me, I find myself in an uncomfortable position to say something that would be negative against him, because I actually appreciate what he did for me. So I think I'm sort of jaded in what I would answer. So I'd rather not bullshit anyone here and just tell you straight up. Patrick lately, got good with me, so I'd rather pass on that answer.
Thank you.
Bear, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to first I wanted to make a statement about Dr. Fauci. I mean, the man graduated from Cornell University with a doctorate in medicine. So I got to push back on the guy that's talking. The other thing is,
agreed. You're right about that.
If credentials don't make him that special, to be honest.
No, but it's true. He did graduate, with a medical degree.
He graduated really high in his class. I graduated really high in my.
And he stopped the Ebola from, picking up speed, and a lot of other.
That was largely the British.
And also, he was the stop the AIDS.
No,
he was one of the head researchers in AIDS. So
no, many.
I don't want to. My other thing is, as far as Donald Trump goes, I'm not sure if you're Jewish, and going back to his grandfather, they were Nazis, and how do you like that family so much? I'm really trying to.
Well, so are the Kennedys.
Understand that.
Are you okay with the Kennedys being Nazis?
Well, at least the Kennedys were, brought down the mob. They were going after corruption.
They were elected by the mob. Wait. They were elected by the mob.
They were the mob. They were the mob.
They were the mob. Are you kidding me? Kennedy was a runner.
Yes,
Joe Kennedy.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He did.
Okay,
he did.
So look, you're asking me about his grandfather. I can put my hand on the Bible, raise my right hand, and swear to it. I have never done business. I have never done
misogynist that he was,
nor that I have ever met his grandfather. I know one thing. I know that Donald Trump put the embassy in Jerusalem when 6 presidents bullshitted during the election they would, and then lied about it and didn't.
I'm not much on the religious side. So
it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with Israel. And as a Jew, Israel is important to me.
Yeah,
that's the only place I'm going to be able to run to when they start throwing us back in the ovens, is Israel.
Well, I'll tell you this. To Chuck the anti-Semite, Mr. Cooper, and Nick the enabler, and Felix the asset, you can all go fuck yourselves.
Oh, thank you. Listen, if I could go fuck myself, you think I'd be spending time on this call? I'd be doing it right now.
That's real
Felix,
funny.
I got a question for you. Felix, I got a question.
Yeah,
for you.
well, sure. I have a question on, this pandemic that we're having.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I
been,
muted them.
been,
I'm gonna start kicking
yeah,
people out.
yeah. Well, no, I just wanted
Yeah, I
to know
did
what he
that.
felt about his this pandemic going on. I mean, is this a real pandemic?
Well,
You,
it's definitely a real pandemic.
This is
My
off topic.
question is, why the hell aren't we asking how it started, where it started, why it started, to try to understand potentially where it may be going? Because I'll tell you one thing.
well,
I was
that's what
born.
I.
I was
That's
born. I was
there's my
born at
point.
night. I was born at night, but not last night. And the
Right.
funniest thing I ever heard in my life was when they first told us that some schmuck selling fish ate a bad bat, and that's what's doing this. And I sat
Well,
there and said, how stupid do they actually think everyone is? And then I realized everyone believed it and just confirmed that everybody was pretty fucking stupid.
well, no, it started on Trump's watch. And why wasn't he in November of 19? I was reading all about it, and I was wondering why he's not stopping the flights. He should have stopped flights back then.
Yes, he should have.
Well,
He should have
who's
locked
he
it down
getting
on
advice
day
from?
He shouldn't have lied. He
But
shouldn't have lied to the American people
but I
and
have
not
to tell you
and
something.
try to hide this pandemic.
You're right.
And
You're
he
right.
Would
should
it
have
have
But
been
done a
better?
lot
It
of
would have
other
been better for him
things.
to start a panic.
But
Why would he want
may I
to
say?
start
May
a
I
panic?
say?
Well,
No,
wait
no,
a minute.
no,
What's
no.
a panic?
May I
Is
answer? May I answer?
yes,
please. Okay. Unfortunately, he was getting advice from a guy
but
named
he's the
Doc.
ultimate
But I'm not.
president.
But I'm not finished. But I
No,
really am
you're
not
not.
finished with my
I
answer.
know. I'm just mad. I go
That's
ahead.
okay. That's all right. Unfortunately, he was getting advice from a guy named Dr. Fauci, who helped fund the lab where this came out of. So
Well,
there's a
no,
lot
it
of
was.
questions. There's a lot of questions there. A lot of questions that I have that I don't think we'll be able to get the answers to, because it's a riddle trapped inside an enigma. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Donald is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he was getting advice from people who may or may not have been involved in where this thing was invented in the first place. Who knows what the hell happened behind the scenes? Who knows why it came out? Who let it out? Was it by accident? Was it on purpose? I'll tell you one thing. I'll give you odds on that some schmuck fish seller wasn't the guy who ate a bad bat and started spreading it. That I don't buy. That one I definitely don't buy.
Well, it's such a evolution of reporting too, because it was the Democrats, 2 years ago that were calling Trump a racist for shutting down all these flights out of China, and now they're saying, well,
That
he
was
should have
3
shut
months
down flights.
afterwards. 3 months
No,
afterwards. Yeah. That wasn't. He
no.
didn't start doing it until
With all due
late
respect,
February.
sir, with all due respect, go back through and find the news reports and reset your timeline, because I think you're a little bit off.
I
Trump
don't
acted
think.
fast, and he was criticized for it by Democrats. And now Democrats want to say, "Well, why didn't you shut it down?" So
He
you
should.
can't
Well,
have it
he
both ways.
first of all, he was the president back in November of 19, and when I was reading about it, I'm just a regular guy, and I'm reading about it then, and I'm wondering what our president's doing about it, and he didn't do anything about it. Didn't even talk about it. It was more in the news than we were hearing that. And then when he was at Davos, he said, "Oh, we only have one case. We don't have nothing to worry about." So,
Well, your timeline's
what's
off to
his?
begin with, because the reporting didn't
Well,
even come out until
Davos was in
December
February.
2019. So your timeline's off. There's no
No,
way you read about it in November.
The Chinese doctor was there, and they chased out the American journalists. Don't you remember that?
Can I hear? I think Teresa has a question.
Yes, I was going to ask. Yeah, Felix, can you hear
No
me?
more on this?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you know about, or do you associate with Joel Greenberg or Matt Gaetz?
No, I don't.
And what do you think of that situation?
No, I don't. And I actually don't even know what the situation is. I don't follow a lot of political news, to be honest with
Sex trafficking?
you. The Matt Gaetz stuff. Yeah, I read about that. I don't know anything about it other than what I've read. I don't know if I have an opinion on it. I mean, if he was sex trafficking, he's a piece of shit and needs to go to jail. If he's being set up, then the people that are setting him up should go to jail.
Okay, I have a statement also. If you look up in the upper window, you will find out that Roar Barker did ask for Assange, wanted to get Assange pardon. if you look up in the window.
Okay. Well, I mean, if he did, he did. I listen. I mean, I know Rohrabacher was very close with Andrei Artemenko. Andrei Artemenko told me that, but I never met Rohrabacher myself. I didn't have any dealings with him.
My question I have about Assange is he could have put a lot of this to rest, no? Back in the Russia days when everybody was going crazy about Russia, he could have done us a favor. They say, oh, I could, he didn't want to reveal sources, but
yeah,
he could have helped the situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about Assange, honestly. Like, who's using him, to what goals? Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I'm very much in favor of people spilling, bad beans. Big supporter of any journalist that does that. But again, the intel agencies all use reporters, obviously. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about Assange, honestly.
Hi, I have a quick question. But before I ask it, I'd like to thank the organizers for putting this on. This has been a delightful 2.5 hours. And Mr. Sater, you're the most
Felix,
humble.
please. Felix, please.
You're the most humble mensch hero I have ever heard. I can listen to you all night long. Your stories are amazing. My question, really quick: do you have any quick comments?
Can I please give you my ex-wife's phone number, please? You need to tell her that. She doesn't agree. She really doesn't agree.
Well, thank you for being here. This has been great. Any quick comment?
Sorry, I don't know what happened. Are you there?
I am. I got muted. I think everyone in the channel got muted for a second. So my quick question is if you my question was if you had any comments on Bill Browder.
It's a great question.
And his connection to Integrity Initiative.
Hey, Felix, you're on mute. Are you trying to talk?
Sorry. I don't know how my mic went off mute. I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we
can.
You're good to go.
Oh, okay, all right.
So what are your feelings on Bill Browder?
Yeah.
If you can say anything.
Of
I know
course.
he probably sues everybody who says anything, but otherwise.
Wow. God, listen, I've been in a lot of litigations. What's one more amongst friends? Bill Browder had no problem doing business with gangsters and murderers until they turned on him. The companies that he was involved with in Russia and what he was doing, he was in bed with some really bad folks. And playing stupid and saying he didn't know anything about it, I believe that as much as I believe the fish and bat story. And I agree that what was done was wrong, and it's horrible what happened to Magnitsky. But Bill Browder certainly doesn't have any moral right to say half the shit he says.
But you are aware of Browder's connection with the Integrity Initiative in Europe, right?
No, I don't really follow him because I know about Browder from his Moscow investing days, and that's all I need to know.
Okay. I just had somebody ask me to ask you about Sembol and Nazarbayev University. Did we already talk about that?
No. Sembol is a company that I was strongly involved with, and we did a lot of construction for Nazarbayev, including his private home, which just got burned down, by the way, during the insurrection. And we did a lot of construction for him. Sembol was started by a guy named Fatah Taminchi, who was started in the business by Tefik Arif, who was my partner in Bayrock.
Hey, Felix, there's been questions about Bayrock Arif and what was in the Senate report as far as his ties to organized crime and as far back as 2000 and sex trafficking. And I guess, people act like the FBI didn't know where you worked. Do you want to speak to that as far as they knew where you were employed?
Well, of course they knew where I was employed. Are you kidding me? The relationship I had with the FBI was such that they pretty much knew every single thing about me. No, they didn't send me in there to work. I got there myself, and I didn't know about Arif until later, and that's when I left, when I found out who he was, and what he was all about. And yeah, he's a piece of shit. And yes, he was my partner, and I can't deflect any blame. But I certainly wasn't involved in any of his activities, and his relationship with with bad shit predated me and post me, but it had nothing to do with me. I was there doing development work. I'm a father of 3 daughters. Certainly, I think anybody who traffics young girls is a complete piece of shit, and I'd be more than happy to put them out of their misery myself. But I can't really, sit here and try to wash myself off the fact that I was partners with the guy. Yes, I was. It's unfortunate. It happened. But I can assure you that when I was working there, I had zero knowledge, nor did I know anything about it. And when we say sex traffic, honestly, he was paying hookers. He wasn't.
Right.
He wasn't really turning them out. He was actually hiring them and paying them. The fact that some of them may have been and were underage doesn't make it any less disgusting. But at the end of the day, he wasn't running a sex trafficking ring. He was ordering girls who he wasn't doing an Epstein. He was ordering girls who showed up for money, not to try to get a career in film or something.
So at any point did the FBI ask you any questions about him? Or I guess, was there any time that you were working for both the FBI, the CIA, and the DIA, and that kind of caused issues?
No, they basically passed me around like a hooker.
Do you feel like your exposure to a lot of shit kind of like maybe nullifies your feelings about this? That I'm not saying the sex trafficking in particular, but maybe a little bit, that you've seen a lot of dark shit. Like, how do you come to terms with some of the stuff that you've seen and what is expected of you from your sort of moral trial right now?
Well, what's expected of me of my moral trial is exactly what I'm doing. I have never sacrificed my morals despite seeing all this shit. But I don't know, sometimes it feels like, I want to ask God, what's with me in front page news, especially all the dirty shit. And some of it I did myself, actually. I was involved in a stock fraud, but there was a reason why that happened. Because the U.S. government decided to throw me in jail over a bar fight, because they wanted to get my father to cooperate with them. Most people don't know that story. I think nobody knows that story. It's maybe the first time that I'm telling anyone. I got into a bar fight. The guy tried to drop the charges, and the U.S. government showed up on my father's doorstep and said, if you don't cooperate with us, we're going to send him to jail. And they did, and he didn't, and they did, and they took my license away. And I was angry that my life was taken away and I was used. And that's when I went into the stock fraud thing, and I had a small child, recently born child, and no money for rent. And, I did what I did. Not justifying it. I'm just stating a fact of what happened. My moral compass is fine. I don't.
No, that's really fair. I appreciate that you would say that.
I don't do anything wrong, but I've dealt with a lot of bad fucking people. I've dealt with a lot of bad people.
it's a very difficult thing to digest and to mitigate and to maintain your moral compass. So, I'm not saying you're like an amazing person, but I'm just saying
in my own defense, part of my understanding and ability to sort of swim in those circles is what led me to my ability to potentially save tens of thousands of lives. That's the balance. That when I look in the mirror, that's when I look in the mirror and I look at my own balance and I look at myself and I turn around and say to myself, you've been involved with a bunch of douchebags. And in some cases, you knew they were douchebags and you continue doing business with them. I turn around and say to myself, but if I didn't deal with them, if I didn't swim in those circles, I wouldn't have been able to do the good things that I did. I'm just hopeful. And I'm certainly not going to get it from the public. I'm certainly not going to get it from the government. Hopefully, when it's my time and I stand before the man and have to answer, hopefully those scales are tilted heavily in my favor than against me. I think they are, and I hope they are. And I'm not.
You made it another year, baby.
And I'm not done. And I'm not done. I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
Felix, I had one more question. You noted the operatives on behalf of the DNC that reached out to you in 2015.
Like I said, I don't know if they were operatives of DNC. I know that they were former Clinton administration people.
Fair enough. Do you happen to know anybody else that they reached out to?
No.
Okay.
No. They wouldn't share that with me. Again, they were trying to play me.
Okay.
And they used a lot of, well, let me put it to this way. They got me by hiring me at $100,000 a month plus 16% of $5 billion to start working with them. So maybe that greed is my go-to weapon, worked against me just as well as it works against others. I thought I was being hired on a financial asset search, when in reality it was just to get dirt on Donald. And they created a dossier and handed it off. They created a PowerPoint and handed it off to Chris Steele, who then went to the FBI to try to get a RICO case opened against me and Donald. But the FBI knew all about me, obviously, and told them to go scratch. So then they went and shopped it to Brian Ross and Matthew Mosk. But no, I don't know who else they approached, and I suspect they approached many.
Now, it's public knowledge that Donald Trump has cooperated in certain ways with the FBI and whatnot. But is there? Can you add any more to that? Is he kind of like you? Like, has he kind of been helping the FBI and stuff for his whole life too? Did that kind of scare the establishment?
I don't think
the swamp, when he was running for president.
I don't think it scared them. The FBI is the FBI, and you are either willing to help them because you want to do the right thing, or because you're scared of the bad guys, or you did something wrong and want to get out of it. Those are the three choices of why people cooperate with the FBI. And sometimes it's a combination of those things. Donald cooperating with the FBI, I don't know what was in his heart, but the answer is yes, he's helped them in the past. And I don't think he did it because he was scared, and I don't think he did it to cover up a crime. I think he did it because he thought it was the right thing to do. That's at least what I would like to think. And that's what
I didn't mean he was scared. I mean the establishment was scared when he started running, knowing that he was kind of like a good guy.
Nah, everybody cooperates with the FBI. Don't kid yourself.
Oh, gotcha.
When they show up, when they knock on your door, most people
right.
wet their diapers.
And the Nazarbayev University, is there anything else going on there? A buddy of mine used to work there, and
What do you mean? I don't understand the question.
I don't know. He seems to think that he said there's a lot of Americans that work there. It seemed kind of shady. So.
It's politics and big business. It's all shady. Are you kidding me? It's all shady. I mean, these theories of bad conspiracy shit, they're not conspiracies and they're not theories. It's all dirty and it's all bad shit. Whenever you mix politics and business, what do you think you're going to get? Shady shit.
Hey, Felix, I got a question for you. Actually, it's a comment and a question.
Sure.
Thank you. Patrick Burns talks about Hillary potentially being bribed by a foreign government.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about Clinton officials, high-ranking Clinton officials, taking bribes from Russians or being paid by Russians
Mm-hmm.
to basically collude on their behalf. Is there any? Is that two threads of the same story, or what's that all about?
No, it's just two confirmations of this of similar activity.
Very good. Okay. What about Stephen Rowe? Have you ever worked with him?
No, who's Stephen Rowe?
That would be Massoud's attorney. I
No.
think it's Stephen Rowe. I can't remember his name now. But he did a lot of work in Kazakhstan. Evidently represented a lot of Russian interest over there.
No, don't know.
Have you ever dealt with anybody from the LIP? Do you know anything about Papadopoulos? What was going on in London?
No, wasn't part of it. Didn't know anything about it.
Okay, thanks.
No,
May
no
I
problem.
ask a question?
Of course.
Okay. Back when COVID broke out, which is of course March 19, when everybody was in the scare about it, why would Mike
I
Pompeo?
locked down. May I say something to you? I locked down March 3rd, by the way.
Okay. Anyway, why did Mike Pompeo ship all of our PPE to China on April the 7th, the same day it was recorded by Bob Woodruff, when Trump said that COVID was 5 times worse than the flu?
I have no idea.
Why would you think he would know the answer to that? Honestly.
Well, everybody was saying that he didn't, Trump
Why are
didn't
you
know anything
why are you
about it.
asking Felix Sater that question?
This
is about Felix Sater. This isn't about
Isn't he?
Pompeo. Your
Isn't he an
Pompeo
intelligent
conspiracy
man? Don't fool me, Mr. Fool, okay?
Let me say this to you.
asked the question.
Yeah, it's a dumb question. Why are you asking Felix
it's not
Sater
a
about
dumb
it?
question. He's intelligent. He knows Trump.
No, why the fuck are you asking Felix Sater about it? This is about Felix Sater. It's not your
fuck off.
dumbass conspiracy theories.
Why don't you fuck off, Fool Nelson?
No, I'll fucking say here, you fuck off, ask a fucking good question.
Come on, let's keep it civil, please.
Tell the man.
I was being civil.
No, let's all just
do you not think Felix knows Trump well enough that he could have asked him that? Is that what you're saying?
No, yes,
no,
yes, that's what I am saying.
I actually can't ask him that. I don't know I don't know Mike Pompeo. I don't know why the government would do what they did. I don't know why half the shit they did. I don't know why half the shit that Biden does, they do. I don't know why half the shit Barack Obama did, or George Bush, or Bill Clinton. I have no idea why they do the shit they do. But it's all bad. Or most of it is all bad.
Thank you for answering, Felix.
Okay. No problem. No problem.
Welcome back, Fool.
Oh, thanks. I just got in bed.
Oh, it's 12 o'clock. Interesting. We're about to hit midnight. I turn into a pumpkin, by the way.
Fool, can I say something to you real quick? If you look up in the window, Sarah Rohrbacher did ask for the pardon for Assange. Look up in the window.
Yeah, but it wasn't ordered by Trump. Like, it's such a fucking stupid idea. Like, okay, Kelly wouldn't even let Trump talk to Dana. That's not what I was denying. I was saying it's a bullshit story. Mike Kelly wouldn't, or what's his name? John Kelly wouldn't even let Trump talk to Rohrbacher. So it's a fucking stupid story.
Hey, Felix,
well,
can
it's like McCarthy said, there's only two people that get paid by Rohrbacher, and that's Trump and get paid by Russia, and that's Putin. Putin pays, Russia pays Rohrbacher and Trump. That's what.
May I say something?
Okay, yeah, there's no evidence for that. Shut the fuck up, Teresa.
May I say something? May I answer you, Teresa, on that? Teresa?
Sure.
Okay, there's a third person that gets paid by Putin, and that is Hillary Clinton. And that I know for a fact, and there's more than enough proof of that.
Boom, shakalaka.
Okay.
Bing bong.
Can you run through and kind of it's going back to the Toronto Tower.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hit some high details on what happened there? and especially with the bribes that were paid to the
I'll tell you everything I know
Canadian
about
labor and
I'll tell you
the
everything I know
aircraft
about
deals
that.
with Bombardier.
I'll tell you everything that I know about that. Donald calls me into the office one day and says, "Listen, I got a problem in Toronto. This deal is going sideways. This guy Alex, I think it was Shinman or whatever his name was, he's fucking it all up. I need you to go down there and throw him out and take over the deal." I fly down to Toronto. I go to the building and I see that it is smack in the middle of like 4 other buildings on every side are covering the windows. There's no view. I got back on the plane that evening, came back and told Donald, Donald, I want nothing to do with this thing. It's a fucking abortion and it's going to go nowhere. And I suggest you bail on that building. That is my only connection, understanding, or knowledge of Trump Toronto.
Okay. Thank you. Oh.
That was one of my smarter moves on Trump Towers. It's not getting involved in that.
That sounds like a really smart move.
Yeah.
Hey, Felix, I have a
Mr.
question. Why did Donald Trump approve of Operation Warp Speed to get the vaccines going? I thought that you might know that because you talk to fucking Donald Trump every single day. Is that do you know why?
You know what? Hold on. Let me text him on the other line.
Calm down.
Let me text him on the other line.
I have a serious question,
Sure.
if I may. Mr. Sater, this is my first time hearing you speak publicly, and you sound extremely, amazingly educated and cool and calm in a Twitter space, which is hard to do. Knowing that President Trump had a lot of sort of goony people that were just like attracted to him like a moth to a flame and pulled him in the wrong direction, knowing all that, why would you allow someone like Fool to be in your inner circle when he's obviously
I'm not in his inner circle.
I've never met the man. I don't even know what his real name is.
You allow him to berate people that come here for a serious conversation.
But wait a second.
That's not even serious questions.
Wait a second. I was invited here. I have no idea who's even hosting this thing other than Julie.
Oh, that's cool.
Julie invited me.
Yeah,
I don't have any relationship with Fool, although I will tell
as
you,
important as you allowing someone like Fool, someone
wait,
like me, doesn't know anything about this space, and now this guy's representing you, kind of.
He's not representing.
No, I'm not.
He's speaking for
himself. How am I representing anything?
He's speaking for himself, not for me.
It doesn't make you look very good when you let him like curse at people. It's really lowbrow.
That's not true. I turned around and told everyone, let's keep it civil. I heard everybody cursing.
We're all just independent researchers.
I'm just trying to calm down. I just want everybody to calm down. There's no need for cursing.
I apologize, by the way.
Felix is not Fool's
question.
Felix isn't Fuel's handler either.
Yeah, I swear I don't even know his real name. Which, by the way, I have no problem with Fool. I don't like the fact that everybody was cursing at each other. But I've answered Fool's tweets and I think emails or something like that. But I don't have no problem with him. But I don't think anybody should be yelling at each other because it literally just shows how fucked up we are in this country. And if we want to get back on normal playing field, we got to stop yelling at each other.
I agree. Thank you.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
And I apologize, by the way, for yelling. I'm sorry about that, Jay.
Yeah, Fool.
I
Since
just
I
let my
control
temper.
you, I'm not allowing you to curse anymore.
Like for someone that just got into bed, you're pretty salty.
Oh no, I just been listening to dumbasses all night. Sorry.
Oh god.
Well, I mean,
I will say, guys, it's been fun. I hope we can keep this at a cruising altitude. I'll have to check off here pretty soon, but I will also say, in Fool's defense, if you're unfamiliar with him, he's a fantastic independent researcher, and that's really what holds all this together. So there's a little band of independent researchers that have done some fantastic work, and Fool's actually spearheaded a lot of that. So
he's written some amazing stuff. He's written some amazing stuff, and Julie invites me, and I want to thank her for inviting me. I want to thank her for all the research she's done on me. I've never met her. I don't know her. And, she just picked up the mantle. And, people have asked me, she says, is is this somebody that you know? I was like, no, I have no idea. And I'm just grateful for her. And she introduced me to Fool, and she introduced me to Mansour. She introduced me to all of these people, and I'm grateful to be allowed in that circle. And I'm grateful that somebody thinks that I'm interesting enough to research. I really appreciate it. And I really want to thank all of you for even listening to me, and participating in this. And any question I can answer, I will. And I promise to, be as honest as I can. And when I can't answer, you've all seen, I just turn around and say, I can't answer. I'm not shy. If I don't want to answer or can't, I won't. But I promise I won't outright lie to anyone.
Thank you, Felix.
And I will apologize directly to Teresa.
Oh,
I'm sorry about that, actually.
sorry. Thanks, Fool. That's really nice of you. Thank you, Mr. Sater, for letting me know.
And I apologize to the audience as
okay,
well.
sorry. Thank you, Mr. Fool. Thank you. That's so nice of you. I really appreciate that. So I'm just wondering, to whom should I be sending the child support request, because the circle jerk in this room has actually made me pregnant, and so I am going to need the address of everyone in this space, because I think the amount of semen has literally permeated my vagina and made me pregnant. I don't know else what
Yeah, well,
else to
you
say.
can DM me.
Okay.
You can DM
That's
me, and
interesting.
I'll give you my address. That's
Okay,
fine.
baby, I'll do
Everything
that.
goes to
I'll
Fool.
do that. I'll be right on top of that, because you're actually my favorite.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it all
thank
goes
you.
to Fool. Send that right to his address.
See, and
directly.
I thought this was a research project. I didn't realize this was
Oh,
a
I
porno
do all
channel.
kinds of research, baby.
Send that straight to her inbox, would you please?
Would you? It's open. My DM. Oh, I've been muted.
No, you're still speaking.
Yeah,
Now she's been
I'm
muted.
sorry. I apologize. Yeah, I apologize, guys. This is pretty much my fault. I don't know how to use these controls. This is my first time hosting a space. I feel like if anyone should be yelled at, it should be me, that I don't know how to police this properly. So feel free to yell at me. This has
Julie,
been a
nobody's
disaster towards
allowing
the end.
anybody to yell at you. Nobody's allowing anyone to yell at you. That's not happening. That one, I can't control Fool, but I'm not allowing anybody to yell at you. That's for sure.
Felix,
Dad.
Felix, what is Roger Stone's deal? I came to the realization that he seems to be a common denominator. He was there during the Nixon nonsense, and then he was there with Trump. Was he just up to no good? Was he part of trying to get Trump tripped up, or is he a good guy?
No. First of all, you know that he has a gigantic tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back? Like a huge tattoo, like covering his whole back.
I think he's getting one to Trump too, or he might already have one.
Who knows? But
So he is a good guy.
Okay, hold on. Okay. I first of all, I don't know him personally, although I know some people very close to him, like really, really close to him. And look, he's in the political dirty tricks business. That's his business. That's what he does for a living. It's not about being a good guy or a bad guy. This is him. This is what he does for work. Political shit. That's what he does.
Right, but
So
he really was trying to help Trump out, not trying
Yeah.
to
He was
being some kind of double agent.
No. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I believe he was trying to help Trump. He's a big Trump supporter. He's still very friendly with him, and half his circle is still hanging out in Mar-a-Lago. So no, I don't believe that he was any kind of agent or any bad guy against Trump. But as a business, his business is being a political dirty trickster. That's what he does for work.
Las Vegas shooting.
I'm sorry, say that again. All I heard was Las Vegas
the
shooting.
Las Vegas shooting. What was up with that? Was MBS really there?
Guys, I mean, how do I know? Next thing you know, you'll ask me about Area 51.
I don't know, man. Who knows what you'll know?
That's true. That's true. I have more useless information in my head than any other person, so that's probably a legit question. No, but I don't know anything about the Vegas shooting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to address the Mogilevich thing, because it's been a thorn in my side for years. People suggesting that you're tied to Mogilevich. So I just want to comment on that it really doesn't make sense for Mogilevich to be an FBI focus by the late 90s, right, when you start cooperating with them, that if you actually did have a tie to them, that's what we would have seen your work guided towards, right?
I'm sorry, my work, what?
Like, what I mean is if the FBI had such a focus on Mogilevich, which they did in the late 90s because they set up shop in like Budapest or somewhere just for focus on his network, that if they had actually had your cooperation in the late 90s and you had a in with him, that's where they would have focused your work, and that's not what your unsealed files reflect. Does that make sense? What I'm
100%. 100. You're 100% on point. I'm telling you, the only thing, the first time I learned of his name is when the FBI gave me a prospectus on a company called YBM Magnix and said, could you please read the prospectus for us and tell us where you think the dirty parts are so that we could, investigate it. That was it. That's my only connection in life ever with Mogilevich. Ever. Except later, I forgot, some guy wrote a book, he's full of shit. I forgot his name. Oh, Craig Unger made the same allegation, and I called him and I said, "Listen, I don't know the guy. Why are you writing this shit?" And he said to me, "Didn't you work at Mirax?" I said, "Yes." "Didn't Mirax borrow money from such and such bank?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Well, you know that Mogilevich also borrowed money from that bank." I said, so that's my close connection. I worked with a company that borrowed money at a bank that this guy Mogilevich also had business dealings with. Well, you just uncovered, who the second shooter in the Kennedy assassination was. Shit. So the answer is it's bullshit. I don't know the guy. I tried to help the FBI once, and it was later just blown out, and everybody keeps talking about it. I didn't know him. My father didn't know him. I had nothing to do with him other than help the FBI indict him through some research on a stock prospectus. That's it.
Yeah, I did read in a book where they had connected Mogilevich or his network to Al Qaeda and selling nuclear weapons. Do you have any thoughts on what was written in that book as far as your work with Al Qaeda? Did you ever hear anything as far as nuclear weapons being sold?
No.
Okay.
No. But at this point, this guy has become, I'm not defending him. I don't give a shit about him. But this guy has become the boogeyman for, everything from the Roswell landing to the Kennedy assassination. And in reality, if you actually ask real solid gangsters in Moscow, they'll laugh. They'll say, Mogilevich, he's just a money launderer. He's nothing more than a banker. He's not this Don of all Dons, godfather of all godfathers. Complete bullshit. Yeah, he's dirty, but to make him sound the way they make him sound, turning him into John Dillinger, I don't want to say he's a bit player, but he's far from a boss. Very far from a boss.
So how did you feel about when they would make comparisons to yourself and like Whitey Bulger or whatever his name is?
Well, if we could get the same actor to play me who played Whitey, that would be good.
So Felix.
Yeah.
Who?
I was joking about that, obviously. Go ahead.
So you alluded to the fact that you're going to drop the bomb that you knew who you were going to disclose who Steele was working for, or who was paying him. I mean, I think we have ideas, but why don't you go ahead and clear this up for everybody?
I'm sorry, I can't be. I won't be that specific. I apologize, because there is a case going on. There's a lot of stuff happening. There is a lot of money at stake. A lot of things at stake that I apologize, but I will not answer. I cannot, and I won't. It will. You'll hear it. You'll hear it soon enough.
So that's a definite.
It'll happen. Yeah, it'll happen.
Thanks.
Well, Felix, I really appreciate you spending all this time with us tonight, answering questions. I know people find your life interesting, especially me. I get made fun of for it, but I find it very interesting.
All right. Now I have to ask everyone for a huge favor. Can everyone please DM Scott Stedman and tell him we missed him greatly?
Absolutely.
We were waiting for him. Felix came on, and where is he? I mean, that's not fair. That's not right. He was going to be the guest of honor.
It's not too late. He might pop in late like he did last time.
Oh, God.
Just wait 3 more seconds.
Yeah, he's popping in. The only thing he's popping is in his own pants.
He's here. He's incognito.
Mm-hmm. Scotty, come out to play. We know you're there. Anyway, is there anybody else who wants to ask any more questions?
Hey, Felix, this is Mitch Goat. How you doing?
Mitch,
hey
man, I really appreciate all the stuff you write on Twitter. I mean, I know, like, if I hit somebody, I know that you're standing right there saying, yeah, hit him again.
I only have a few people on alert, and you're one of them. I don't know if you know that I was dust off 7-0 before I got banned last year, and you and I have DM'd several times when I was that handle. I still owe you that steak when you come down south.
I would love to.
Hit me up. But hey, first of all, thanks for everything. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the last 30 years of your sacrifice. One of the things, a lot of things piss me off, but one of the things that really pisses me off is the fact that you and Carter Page, I mean, pretty much are outed. Yeah, I mean, y'all are done. I mean, your undercover shit's done.
Which is fucked up because they really could have helped the country more.
I know, but it was all for the sake of a dirty election, to get Trump out. And that's the big picture here is they use the intel services, the fourth branch that should not exist, that controls everything, to do this. And
the fifth estate.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
In combination.
And I just hope that we can fix that part of this thing. Because other than then you won't have this patriot uprising, not uprising. I hate to say that word, but patriot politicians, citizen politicians, because they can come in there and you get a knock on the door saying, hey, you remember that thing you were looking at on Facebook the other day? Then you better vote this way. We'll never have honest.
But that's what they do.
I know.
you know, Mitch, they analyze each and every tweet, each and every post. And look, listen, subliminal advertising was being done in the 60s for you to drink Coca-Cola. Yep. Do you know how progressed analytics and artificial intelligence and data mining is? They know that you looked at a mattress today and looked at Nike sneakers a week ago, thus you're a good candidate for a Ford truck. I mean, they know it down to that detail, and they are manipulating our elections.
Oh, absolutely.
They are manipulating them. Why do you think they're throwing people off for saying some stupid shit, even about COVID? So what? What gives them the right to silence people? What happened to, freedom of speech? These major tech companies are horrible, need to be broken up. First of all, their protections need to be taken away. If they're just a platform where anybody could say anything, fine. But if they are now deciding what is right speech and wrong speech, then they should not have the protection. I forgot the law that protects them, but that should be changed.
Section 2.
I'm sorry, section what?
230? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think that should be taken away from them because these people are acting worse than the news agencies. Because the news agencies are pretty blatant. You listen to Rachel Maddow, you're not going to hear anything good about Donald Trump, right? And you listen to Tucker Carlson, you're not going to hear anything good about Joe Biden. Okay, that's obvious. But these tech companies pretend that they are just completely, agnostic to what's going on, and they're not. And they're directing traffic. They are really directing traffic, and they are doing mind control through AI, data analysis. They really know what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and they know how to direct the hordes. And that is a major problem because I didn't sign up for American democracy to be directed by fucking Zuckerberg.
Yeah, well, you say, have you seen that Aldous Huxley interview with Mike Wallace in 1958?
No.
You need to watch it. It's on YouTube.
What is it, Alex who?
Aldous Huxley. He wrote The Brave New World.
Aldous Huxley. I'm writing these.
Yeah, Albous Huxley.
Albous Huxley.
Yeah, he
Huxley with who? Who was the interviewer?
Mike Wallace in
Mike Wallace.
1958. And
Michael
he called
Wallace.
every single thing that we're seeing today as far as big tech being used, popular politicians, and influencing elections.
So, look, I want to say to everyone who's still listening, okay, I was born in the Soviet Union. And watching a lot of what I'm seeing here is straight out of the communist playbook. It is the same shit that I saw on Russian TV as a child. And I've studied the Soviet Union after I came to the United States, wanted to know who these pricks were who murdered both my great-grandfathers. This is straight out of the communist playbook. I don't care whether anybody agrees with me or not, but there is no light version or good version of socialism. It is a fall into the abyss and hell. And anybody that allows any portion of it to happen is basically a traitor to America. And eventually they will eat you, because in Russia, when the revolution started, first they went after the rich people. Then they went after doctors and lawyers. So don't kid yourself. There is no tax the rich bullshit. Eventually, socialism, there is no way it ends up anything other than Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea, or any of the other places where they practice socialism/communism. And no, there is no socialism in Norway and those countries. That is bullshit. It's not socialism. It's still a capitalist country. All of those Western European countries are. And if anyone can just hear me from my experience, please do not allow this to happen. You will all personally suffer, and you will cheat your children out of the American dream.
Yeah, I think you're preaching to the choir for the most part here, but hopefully there are some other ears that maybe started this conversation off with different viewpoints.
Hey, yeah, Kate, did you want to say something?
Hi, thank you so much for accepting my request. I've been researching a lot about Russia and Ukraine recently. I didn't know that much, but my sister's husband's family is from Russia and the Ukraine, so I've been trying to learn more. But you're a really great storyteller, Felix, so I feel like you might have a good one for this. I was wondering how you got to know Lev Parnas.
Simply just because of being sort of a Russian immigrant, similar age. He was on Wall Street. I was on Wall Street. I didn't know him well, but I've met him numerous occasions. And it was just basically sort of from the same schoolyard type of thing.
Yeah, I heard that you guys went to high school together, maybe.
Yes, we did.
Oh,
he was younger.
Was that in New York?
That was the school that I was talking about where the intelligence agencies would try to recruit us. That was St. Sergius Academy, I believe.
Is it in New York?
Yeah, it's on Park Avenue in like 98th Street or 96th Street. I don't remember exactly. But in the upper 90s on Park Avenue. Or that's where it was when I went there. I don't know where it is now. And I went there for 1 year only. So that's where I met him the first time.
Oh, wow. So then...
We're not friends. We knew each other, but we knew each other from being in the same small high school, but we were never friends.
Did he come back into your orbit like after working?
Yes, I crossed paths with him once or twice on Wall Street, but we never had a relationship of any sort. Like if somebody said Lev, I'd say, yeah, I know who he is, but that's about it. I didn't have any dealings with him ever, either on Wall Street or in politics. And, honestly, I told Rudy, I said, Rudy, I think you're betting on the wrong horse here. I think you're going to get hurt with this guy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, because he acted like a clown. He went to Ukraine and started pushing his weight around with some real heavy hitters, heavy hitters, and pretending that he had the stamp of approval from the president to do what he wanted. And that's a bad way to act, and that's a bad way to play. And if you actually do have the stamp of approval from the president, you don't have to wave it in anybody's face. You only when you're a shallow little dick do you do that, not when you're a solid guy.
Yeah. Usually don't have to tell people you're powerful if you're powerful.
Exactly. They could read it in your eyes. And in his eyes is fear, not strength.
Yeah. Well, looks like he has a lot more to fear now.
Not really. Listen, we all go through life and eventually just wind up being a story that people forget. So I don't think he has anything to fear now. He may, I don't know what happened with his conviction. Did he go to jail or not? I don't even follow
15
this,
months.
people. 15 months, not a pleasant experience. That's the one thing I don't wish on anyone is jail. Well, not anyone. There are a few people that I wouldn't mind if they took a vacation. But, what happens is you get into a situation and then you have to do shit that you're really not proud of afterwards. But if you don't act like a tough guy in the first place, you don't have to later, cry over acting like a little bitch.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I know him, but I don't know him like that.
So just like socially?
Not even socially. I mean, if we saw each other in our lives, other than in high school, maybe 100 times, and then afterwards maybe 10 times, in the rest of my life. But I knew who he was. And again, being sort of Russian immigrants, you sort of cross paths. I know people that were friends with him, and I know this jewelry store in Miami, in Sunny Isles, that he had a relationship with, and the guy that owns it, I know his daughter, those type of connections.
Yeah, I get it.
Sort of like I said, from the same neighborhood, from the schoolyard type of thing.
Yeah, I get it. Well, thank you for your time.
Absolutely, anytime.
In your words, this is Felix Cat again. I don't know, let's medley the Darlington Butler. If you know anything about this conspiracy theory. Real quick though, I'll make it quick. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship going back to high school, and give us a feel of how distant or close it was with Cohen?
What a douchebag that guy is. I mean, I literally 2 months ago called him and threatened to beat the shit out of him. I didn't know him well. No, it's true. 2 months ago, I called him and he's like, "I lose my number," and I was telling him, "I'm gonna kick your ass," and I will. When I see him, I'm gonna smack him. I'm gonna smack him down. I mean, what a piece of shit. And it wasn't out of anything that happened. It was a personal situation, and that his wife is walking around and telling people, that whatever. My daughter's future mother-in-law can't participate in certain events because her son is going to marry that man's daughter. I was like, and they asked her why. She said, "Well, my husband went to jail because of Felix." I'm like, no, you fucking idiot. You went to jail because you were involved with Stormy Daniels and wanted to show what a big tough guy you are and sucked Donald's ass and wrote the check out of your own account, you idiot. But anyway, so there was Michael Cohen's uncle was a mob doctor. He was the doctor to a lot of guys in an area called it's right at the tip of my tongue. It's in Brooklyn, where the El Carib Country Club was, Mill Basin, and that's where all the mobsters lived in Brooklyn. Which is no big deal because there was mobsters in 14 apartments in the building that I was in too. It's not mafia in Brooklyn is hot dogs at the baseball game. And he and his uncle owned the El Carib Country Club, and he worked there for a while, and I used to go in there once in a while, and that's when we first met. But a very close friend of mine, and I don't want to use his name, was friends with Laura, his wife. And Laura was from Queens, and we were from Brooklyn. And Michael was dating her since, early high school. But Laura used to bring all her girlfriends out because the girls from Queens love going out with the boys from Brooklyn because we were the bad boys. And everyone was always very respectful to Laura because she would always bring 5 of her friends around. So that was the relationship with Michael. But, I knew him. He was partners with close friends of mine. And our orbits were a lot more intertwined than with someone like Lev Parnas. But we were never friends. We were never close. And then when I got to the Trump Tower, I was on the 26th floor. He was on the 25th floor below. And only after I left did he get promoted and started, running into Donald's office every 5 seconds. But my relationship with him, look, he basically talked bad about every single person who made him who he is. That doesn't just include Donald. He betrayed Donald. He also betrayed all the people that he did business with prior to being with Donald. Talks shit about all of them in his book. We had these conversations, and everyone thinks he's a piece of shit. And he actually is a piece of shit. That's my opinion of Michael Cohen. And I hope somebody's recording it and sends it to him.
Well, I thank you, and that's what I wanted to hear. And I respect you a lot, Felix, and it's been a nice few years learning how to do research, and you've been kind of a mentor to me. So,
well, guys and girls, and I hope I'm being politically correct by saying girls and guys. I don't know what I mean. I don't know what the use of pronouns are now, but but whatever. I'm just joking. Whenever I do sit down to write my book, which I really want to, but like I told Julie Lewis, I just can't find the 3 months to sort of disconnect from life and just do that, because I'm not going to allow somebody to do it and do it poorly, because it is my life. I'm calling on all of you and all of your research to just send me everything and help me out, because half the stuff I don't remember until you ask me. Like, it triggers memories, because it's, I'm 55 years old. So, times 365 days. So at least, 45 of those or more, 50 of those 55 years times 365 days. It's hard to remember all this shit. And I really appreciate that all of you found me interesting enough to research. And I absolutely am reaching out to everyone to help me when I sit down to write the book, and giving everyone full credit for it.
Absolutely. Felix, I have one more question before I head off here. Do you happen to know Donald Berlin? Have you crossed paths with him at all?
Donald Berlin? I don't think so.
Okay.
Who is he?
Heads up a investigative company. Few work papers out there with his name on them. Just kind of curious.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm getting pretty tired. Is there anybody who has any other questions? No? Well, I really appreciate all your time, Felix.
Oh, anytime. I really appreciate being invited, and everyone have a great night and Happy New Year. And let's make 2022 an amazing year for everyone. I hope everyone that whatever you want happens for you. And let's have a fantastic 2022 and Happy New Year, everyone.